everyone who's here physically and remotely as well. So let's begin. And in any means, I'm speaking too fast, too slow, please just raise your hand and let me know. I can get carried away. My voice can be very overly animated or super fast. Okay, so just let me know. We call this sesi bersantai, FM. So it's very chill. Questions are welcome anytime. So there is a Q&A session, but depending on the time basis. So I do welcome questions anytime. Just raise your hand and we'll try to get to it. Yeah. Okay. So a brief introduction about myself. I'm not going to go too detailed inside, but just kind of sums up myself. So I am actually a registered counselor and also a counseling psychologist. So I completed my degree in Masters in Counseling Psychology in San Francisco, focusing on marriage and family therapy. So if I were to stay in US and practice in the US, I would be licensed as a licensed marriage and family therapist. But I choose to, cross the continent and come back to Malaysia. So hence continuing to work in community mental health in Malaysia. So I'm also the founding team of ThriveWell, as well as at the moment working online and offline digitally on mental health care services. So my specialty is basically working with youth, families, and also individual or with families, and doing a bit of work with the communities as much as possible, and privately as well with special needs or learning disabilities in the kind of demographics. So I'm also a board member of the Malaysian Marriage and Family Therapy, and also a member of the California Association of Marriage Therapists. So I cannot stress enough that as your students here today, remember to also think about associations that you will be joining. So if you are aware that there is such associations out there, or body or association, start joining as a student member, because it's very resourceful. And this was drilled into me when I was studying overseas, that, as a student body, be a part of, if you're going into counseling, if you're going into clinical psychology, what are the professional bodies like APA that you can join with student membership. You can do that now, and you get students rate, do that, because it's going to be full of resources coming in, and newsletters, workshops that comes in that's offering free to members. So as a student, take good opportunity of this student body rates for associations. Okay, long story short, today's agenda. We're going to go through a bit of this agenda with family systems, basically what family systems are and why they matter. And then we're going to move to family concepts, core concepts, basically family goals, rules, and individual scripts. God, this may look very foreign to you or sound foreign to you. I'm trying to make the conversation less jargony and more layman, so all of us here will understand family systems to our best ability, right? The last sharing would be my experiences abroad, how actually I continue my work there with families, and my lessons learned and challenges when I was there as a trainee, literally. So instead of doing my training in Malaysia, I chose to practice overseas and, did all my degree overseas. And how was I able to overcome conversation barriers or cultural barriers when I was doing the work as a trainee practicum there, right? And lastly, Q&A. Okay, so the family is more than the sum of its parts. Has anyone heard of this before, this quote? Or this is the first time? First time for everyone. All right. So essentially, it means that we are more than just a unit in our own family members. So think of it like a puzzle or Lego. One piece of yellow Lego, one piece of red Lego, blue Lego. When you put it together, it means something. So we are more than just one piece of Lego in our own family system, right? So that's just put in simplest words. So in the family systems therapy, there's a lot of jargon words. But this is one of the big jargon that you will always see, you will remember, right? That's kind of drill into you when you see things in that manner, okay? So family system and individuals, so we're going to start now. So family is a system. So before I go into too much words, so I've tried to reduce the words so that it's also easy for us to digest. So when you take a look at your palm at the moment, if all of you can just put your pens down at the moment, just put my pointer down. So give a good stare if you have not stared at your fingers and your palm at the moment. So when you look at your thumb, try moving it. You look at your index fingers and all your fingers, what do you see? In essence, it's actually I heard my palm. Yes, it's your palm. Okay. The exercise today is actually to look beyond the palm. Your fingers are actually like the Lego blocks that I mentioned just now. A red, blue, yellow, green, right? Your fingers are part of the system of your hand. And each fingers has a function. If one loses its function, it affects the rest of the other fingers, right? So that kind of explains how important family systems is in the sense of looking at this as a whole. So we always never really think about it, but hopefully this metaphor will let you understand how to look at things in a systems manner, right? Okay, so from the systems perspective, we always look at how families function rather than why they function that way. Okay, so the central tenets is basically we look at the emotional attitude, behavior responses amongst each other at the context of a family unit. So this is to say that everyone has an impact or influence with each other. So how I put it, for example, if John is upset because this is a family, John is upset because his older brother gets time to go out and hang out with his friends. Him being just only a 10-year-old, don't get that. He's going to be upset and he's going to be annoyed. He's going to yell at the brother, why you get this and I don't get that. Parents are going to be involved, saying he's older, he has more priorities, he gets opportunities. So again, in this conversation, we don't see John as a problem, as an individual, but we see that in this family system, they have some kind of priorities for older sibling. Parents try to instill it in certain ways to ensure that there is some balance in the requests of the older brother get to go out and he doesn't. So here, John's effect of emotional also influence the brother's ability to maintain calmness because he got yelled at. So again, the yelling, the screaming, the conversation, the interaction, they all affect each other in the systems of the family. Okay? To put it simpler, okay, so Virginia Satir is a very famous master therapist. In her explanation, families are seen like a mobile when you hang. So if you pull a string or if you cut one of it, it's not balanced, right? So to achieve the balance, or what we call ensure that the family is actually functioning, the mobile strings are always trying to locate its balance, or what we call equilibrium. Later, I will explain. So, and also these are what forms how family have goals, rules, and responsibility to ensure that the family unit continues to go on and continues to function as a family. So everyone has a role, everyone has their own purpose in the unit of the family. Any questions so far? Let me know if it's too jargony or if you need more clarification, stop me and I'll be able to do more explanation. Okay. So characteristics of the family systems, and these are basically as much jargon you will hear today. So I've tried to put today's I would say sharing session less theory, so that everyone can take this concept home and do the exercise with yourself, with your friends, with your clients. If you're seeing anyone, you're practicing, if you're a clinician, you can do that without studying 2 years and you know, be an expert in that. This sharing concept, extracting for the purpose of the sharing here would be very helpful. So the concept of wholeness, interaction, circularity, homeostasis, subsystem. So these are as much jargon that you will hear for someone who studies family system or be working in the family system. Wholeness basically means the whole family itself is seen as the unit when we approach a challenge. Sometimes the client comes in, we may be trained to see that individually, that this client has symptoms, is coming from, for example, the client is upset, or the symptoms are showing clients very highly agitated and very anxious. We only see that symptoms coming from the client. But from a wholeness perspective, we see that the symptoms may not just be coming from the client. It could be enabled by another environment. It could also be triggered by a different system that kind of perpetuate the client's anger, irritability, and so forth. So the concept of interaction, again, our interaction with each other in a family system unit can always be trigger or affect each other in many ways. if we actually share something that is hurtful to someone else, the other person will also receive it and feel upset and then reflect back interaction back to us. So this kind of goes in a circularity manner. And the circularity manner is where we sometimes are trained to think in very linear, A equals to B equals to C, right? But in systems thinking, it's kind of always in a circular motion where one needs to be able to understand where the cycle is, and then we try to kind of break that, and then we then have a new, fresh, and healthy cycle of the behavior, right? So homeostasis is basically, in short, how can we reach back to equilibrium? Homeostasis is where a family all has an automatic mechanism to kind of bring the family back to stability. So when we all go through challenges as a family, one gets shaken a role, for example, like maybe the breadwinner of the family, the father or the mother, for example, lost a job and the family is now shaken. So family is going through a crisis per se. So that homeostasis is now being shaken off. So family will then execute certain rules or expectations that normally the family will do to bring that back to a balanced state. And finally, the subsystem. So in all the family units, we all have a subsystem. So the husband and wife is a spouse system. Siblings is a subsystem. Uncle, aunties are a subsystem. Cousins are a subsystem. So we are all made up of subsystems in the actual sense of a whole family. So which is why these concepts are usually what the family, I would say, therapists approaches would kind of look into when they look into assessing a family or looking at the symptoms or what's going on with the whole a client's background. Okay, for today's purposes, we will look into activity for interaction and circularity. So I understand because this concept can be very theoretical if you don't, again, if you actually do this, you'll be a lecturer for like in a couple of sessions before you get into doing this. But for simplicity, I've had this activity so that everyone can actually get a taste of what interaction feels like, and then also what circularity actually put to when you actually do the activity itself, okay? So when I talk about circularity earlier, basically, again, most of us are trained A equals to B equals to C. So what is A actually? So A is activating event, the trigger, what's triggering this emotion, right? And then B is actually the beliefs that actually we have innately, inherently have, that builds into the consequences of the situation for the individual. So very straightforward, very linear. But when it comes to circularity thinking, this is something that you might want to take home today. How can I think more circularly? Is, for example, parents are worried about finances. That's the A, right? And then parents are arguing more in front of the children because, yes, they're stressed out because finances, it's a bit of challenging right now for the family. Could be one parent is actually bringing in income, the other parent is not. And then children start to worry about mom and dad because apparently the arguing is more frequent in front of the children now, right? And then children then express their worry because they don't understand what's going on, because what they see in front is just parents yelling or talking or saying things very loudly in front of them. And they actually express this, what we call dysregulated behavior through, it could be inappropriately done by crying more, or just if they're siblings, they're probably not playing well, and just to kind of process in their best ability way to understand what's going on, because they have no idea what's going on. They just know the sense of sound in the house is getting very loud, and it's just not what we call homeostasis, right? So then we have this regulated behavior is worrying the stressful parents now. It's like, why is our kids not paying attention? Why are they yelling at each other? Why are they coming back home? Why are we getting called to school to pick up our kids hitting or biting other students? What is going on, right? So this is, again, worrying the parents. And then the cycle goes into parents now even argue more than just finances, because it's already increased family stress in addition to the challenges of unemployment, or and the parents now have to deal with a child which they don't know what's going on with the children, right? So then it goes, again, a cycle. So until one of this is resolved, then the change or the new cycle will be able to then continue on healthily. Is there any question? Do you understand the circularity, right? Okay, so yeah, we get that, right? So when you see things next time in the future, so maybe that's a reason why it continues on until we break one of this, we change one of the point at any point, then we see changes. Okay. So then features of interaction in families, right? So these are kind of like the 4 focuses where we look at interaction. So from maybe today onwards, whenever you talk to someone or you are going back to your families or with your friends, in any instances, maybe this is something that you will like think differently, okay? No one's behavior stands alone, okay? Which is true. Everyone's reaction is in response to someone else's action. Like I mentioned earlier, little brother's crying, upset because the older brother gets to go out and things like that. So basically, we are always influencing each other. Okay. And then what affects one individual in some ways affects all. Each person's behavior is part of a larger functioning. So we are actually influencing each other. If, in other words, your Lego puzzle, if you plug one out or you put one in, one may fall, one may look distorted, so your puzzle is not complete, right? So each person's behavior is understandably only with the context of the other behavior. So in order to understand this person's challenges, I will also need to understand the context of why is this person being like that. Is that influenced by the other family member? Is that influenced by other systems beside the family member, which is also part of this person's system? So in that sense, I'm not targeting the child, the client as the only IP. It's the whole system. IP meaning the identified client in the setting. If I'm treating someone, I'm looking at someone. Last one, the question of cause and effect is inadequate to explain this interaction, meaning did this happen first? It's like a chicken and egg. Did the chicken come first or the egg come first? So who caused it first? Was it mom? Was it dad that made this statement that made the child this way? Or was it the child was sensitive that the child couldn't understand what was going on? So a lot of things is unquestionable in some ways that there's no explanation to this, but just kind of understand this cycle of interaction. Okay. Okay, first activity. So I'm sure you have pens and papers. If not, you have your own respective notebooks, right? So the idea here is that the activities that we are sharing today, or things that I may be sharing, or things that you will be sharing, are privy to your own, I would say, if you feel like comfortable to share, you can do that. But if you feel that you don't want to do an activity, or it may trigger you in some ways in reflections to your own family systems or things like that, feel free to take a step back and don't feel that you need to compel to do that sharing. Or if you need to step out the room, please do that as well. So this is a very free and easy activity up to your level of comfort, okay? So the idea here is to enable yourself to begin evaluating your own lens, training you to look at a systemic lens and understand how you mutually interact with your own family members as well. And then ultimately, you just want to achieve a broader understanding. So there's no biasness here. There's no judgment eyes here. It's just kind of understand yourself a little bit deeper. And do not be concerned about whether your perceptions are consistent with reality. It's just they are the reality at the moment when you're putting it down on the piece of paper. Okay? So this is the example of what you will do after this. It will look like this, just to give you an insight after the activity. So it'll be like a family mapping of sorts. Okay, I'm going to move on to the step. So first of all, we are going to now look at viewing yourself. Instructions will come after this. Okay, mapping your family. That's steps 2. Third step is identify interactions. The 4th step is reinterpret your traits. So we're going to start with viewing yourself. Okay, so on your piece of paper, everyone has a piece of paper. Everyone has a pen ready. Okay, so again, let me emphasize, don't feel compelled to do it if you don't feel like it. But if you feel like you want to try it, give it a try, because this exercise, you can immediately do it with your client, yourself, if you feel like this is going to be useful in a session with them. Okay, draw a circle on a piece of paper to symbolize yourself. Right? Inside the line, inside the circle, list 3 of 4 key, maybe 3 key traits of yourself, and then evaluate each trait. Just kind of understand, is this really me now? You just understand that. And then determine if this trait supports or hinders the goal. Like, what are you aiming for this year, this month, this week? And then reflect how these traits actually influence your actions to get to it. And then ultimately, kind of also get this activity about yourself, your traits, to then align with your desired life. Like what are you heading to? Okay, so your bubble will look like this. Yeah, let me go back. This one, this is just you. Okay, let me get a pointer. Hang on. This one. Okay, we're doing this bubble now. Okay? Yeah, so draw yourself first. Draw a circle and list 3 traits of yourself first. Are we good? Do we all have our 3 traits in our bubble? Okay, right. So now we're going to move on to the next box. We're now going to try to map our family. Okay, so again, in our circle, draw each family members. So immediate family members per se, right? So for simplicity of the exercise, let's just do mom and dad at the moment. Okay, so just remember, think back the bubble, a bubble for dad, a bubble for mom. Okay, and inside each circle, list their major characteristics as perceived by you. Okay, let me bring you back to how it's supposed to look like. This 2, dad, 1 bubble, mom, 1 bubble, and 3 traits that you perceive they have by you. Are we good? Do we all have the mom and dad traits completed? Okay. Few more minutes. Are we good? Yeah. All right. Yes, no, or still thinking? All right. We are moving next. So now we are going to identify our interactions with our parents. For simplicity, I said that's why I put mom and dad. Okay. So in this section, we're going to recall the family members' characteristics trait during the interaction. Okay. Whatever they list the trait there, how was the interactions with them? And then focus on your actions and reactions with this dynamic that you have with the parents. So in this sense, it's you and both parents. And then identify any triggers and your reinforcements for your characteristic, your behavior with these traits that you have put in the box for your mom and dad. And then analyze how your family members influence your actions, your reactions, right? And then finally, you can take a look and observe how your actions reinforces this reaction to other family members. But for now, look at your paper and you will have the 3 circle. Remember that, just how the interaction will be. So the lines here is just representing that it's smooth. You just put straight lines. If it's not a very good interaction, then you can put like a zigzag line, right? So for simplicity of this, we're not going to do what we call family genealogram, which is more complicated, but this is enough to kind of just map the interaction. Straight line or zigzag line if the conversation or the trait in the conversation is not really that good. Okay. Yeah, so straight line means it's a simple, smooth conversation. Zigzag line kind of represent that it's not too good. Yeah. If it's really, really not too good, then it's a straight line, like a cut off. Okay? Yeah. Okay? We are okay with the interaction lines? And the final step is actually to reinterpret your traits. Now you kind of have the mapping. So the final step is actually reflect on the perception of yourself towards the family context that you have in front of you. And then is there any new insights as you look at the characteristics of yourself and the two family members that you have with you? And then how the traits have evolved as a reaction to your family member? Like, have you evolved in your own, looking at your traits, looking at the traits of your parents? So let me go to the box here. Okay, so it should look like this or similar like this if you have a conversation or interaction that is relatively smooth. It's just lines, okay? It doesn't matter it's two line or one line, but basically it's just showing that it's pretty smooth in general. So for Ron, he's shy, he is reserved, and he deems himself a loner. If you see the conversation between dad and mom, you might be wondering what made him this way, right? But the idea here is, imagine if there's no mom and dad, you just look at Ron alone, you might think that, this might be a very, I don't know, what would you say? If you remove mom and dad, what do you think Ron is when you just see shy, reserved, and loner? Introverted, right? Yeah. So, but when we have a picture of dad and mom, that Ron perceived the traits of the dad as distant, unaffectionate, invasive, critical, unaffectionate, and controlling mom, what do you think of Ron now? I hear sad. He's a victim. Is he still an introvert? Maybe not. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. So do you have a sense of a bigger picture now when we do questioning and when we see the person as a whole, it changes the story and narrative, right? So truly, actually, that is actually a very controlling person. But at the same time, he's actually very rigid and not flexible. Mom is also actually a very controlling person and very critical and insists that Ron always score A's in school and cannot not score the perfect score. He's like the perfect child to mom. So with that being, Ron actually don't get much opportunity to what we call differentiate from his family, his parents' expectation. He's always submissive to what the parents want. Ended up he doesn't like to engage with people. He doesn't know how to communicate because the parents never really actually communicated well or process well. And then he's reserved because he just follows, because he has learned that if I don't follow what mom wants, she's very critical. I don't get what I need. I'll just do what she says. Ultimately, this boy is actually very lonely in this family system. This is actually a subsystem, yeah? This is a okay, I'm going to throw words here. This is actually a triangle between Ron, dad, and mom, right? So in that sense, when we work with someone, if it comes to our attention and care, we need to look beyond why this person is shy, reserved, and loner, right? There's a lot of stories behind this child stemming to why he's perceived this way. Okay, so that's mapping your interaction. So moving forward, this is something that you can actually do on the spot, even if you're working with clients or you're trying to actually experience a different side of your families. You can actually do that for your own reflection as well. Okay, so the three important things here that we want to take back and learn about family systems. this is the really 101 thing that we want to take back is it's the whole system. Families are understood best when we view them as a whole. Families are actually having this self-correcting system, like I said earlier. When they're shaken, they're put to crisis. When they are not in the state that they're supposed to be, which is called the equilibrium, they will have an automatic mechanism that's built in. All of us in the family members will have that system. Will try their very best to get it to state. Okay. Finally, families have, I would say, different events can lead to the same outcome, and the same event can cause a different result. Is that too complicated? Can you even explain the last one? In families, different events can lead to the same outcome, but the same outcome, the same event can cause different results. So sister A, sister B can grow up in the same family, same treatment as the parents, but ultimately sister A can have a totally different experience saying that I don't feel love in the family. I don't feel as treated fairly. But sister B will say, I was totally loved by my parents. I had a really fun experience growing up. My childhood was excellent, right? They all came from the same family. So this is just saying that different events can lead to the same outcome, or the same event can cause different results, right? Okay. So any questions so far? We are moving to the concept. So earlier was just to give us an insight into opening our perspective to see from a lens as a whole. Yeah. So in the core concepts, we're going to go into a little bit of the family goals, family rules, family roles, and scripts. Okay, so some core concepts is, what are family goals? So if you think back, your family respectively have a goals, actually. Your parents are set forth. And this is how families actually organize and function. So think of it in your respective workplace. If you're a department or division, if you're working, every division department has their own goals. And this is how it's organized and set it to function. Family rules again. So all of us have somewhat be brought up with certain family rules instilled in us. Families are needed here to enable the goals to be accomplished and needs met. So the rules are important to ensure that it keeps us in place. And then the roles are assigned to us to ensure that we function in that respective roles to attain the goals. And individual script is actually the life script that is written to us as we are in part of this whole family system, right? The larger unit itself. Okay, so family goals. How does family goals influence us? So it actually helps us to get organized and function. If you think back, these goals can be long-term or short-term goals. So for example, parents would probably say, in a couple of years, I would like to have enough money to send child A to university, and then younger child will go to kindergarten. So these are short-term goals for me to make sure that I have the finances ready. Long-term goal is probably annual trips every year overseas. So goals are set up by your family, which is your mom and dad, right? Or caregivers in a sense, to ensure that we achieve together. So it can be formally set, it can be merely implied. What does this mean? That, for example, everyone has a mom's chair or dad's chair at home, normally where they sit, right? It's never implied that that's dad's chair or mom's chair, but somehow they always sit there, right? If dad's home, let's put the chair for dad. Or something on that chair, let's take it out because he's coming to sit. So that's literally, it's not formally implied, but it's there. We have that form to routinely make sure that it's available, right? So priorities for the goals are also set, importance to reveal about the family values as well. So what priorities? Because sometimes families do have priorities set to ensure that this goal needs to achieve by this date. Some families are just, no, it's okay. When a child achieves it, they achieve it. Or when we get there, we get there. So some are really lax, but some have very strict goals that they need to achieve, milestones and whatnot. Okay, conscious goal and an unconscious goal. So this is very interesting. So this can be shared with like maybe oldest child and a youngest child. So if someone is the oldest child, so let's say Mary is the oldest child in the family. Mary got married, different name. Betty got married to John. Betty is the oldest child. John is the youngest child in the family. Okay, so when Betty got married into together with John, she didn't really think about the relationship contract that they will actually have. Betty has always been the responsible older child, taking care of the family as she does. And John is the youngest child in the family, has always been getting the things that they want, he gets it all, doesn't have to do much work because youngest child is okay. So the kind of interaction that he grows up with, right? So consciously they understand that they are together, they are married, they have to work towards their family member. But unconsciously, Betty didn't sign up to take care of John. But somehow, John falls into his natural state of being the youngest in the family, that Betty has to keep picking up after him. So there's unconscious goal, right? So unconsciously, you're taking out that role that being the eldest in a family, and you have to take care of, yes, you have to take care of the husband, but I have to pick up a lot after the husband. I didn't sign up for this, I signed up for a marriage. Unless you identify it consciously, say, hey, you know what? I'm the oldest in the family, the youngest in the family. I noticed that when you're back in your family home, you don't really wash the dishes. But hey, we're together now. Can we divide and conquer all the household chores together? Conscious, right? So that's something that you can put out conversations. You can do that. But again, it's easier said than done. But as long as you notice there's awareness, where you have the awareness, you're able to facilitate this conversation better versus being resentful of this person, that how come you close the drawer, never closed properly, things like that, right? Your family never say anything. Well, maybe the family really didn't say anything because someone else will pick up after him or her, right? So, but if I have to do this all the time, I'm going to be very, very upset because why do I have to do it? I don't have to do it in my own home because everybody has the rules where if the drawers are unclosed properly, everybody will just make sure it's closed. So all these conversations can be facilitated in this conscious and conscious goal. Okay. So again, the interesting part of this is there's a goal and there's also a role. So family roles are very interesting because you have functional roles divided into two types, which is the primary role and a secondary role. So primary roles are basically your immediate role, your husband, wife, daughter, brother, sister to someone. They're very clear and you need this to operate it in your family, right? Secondary roles are basically the task that you do. You could be a mother, but you have a task as a cook. You also have a task as a family chauffeur. You also have a task as disciplinarian. So this could be fallen to you in that sense, in addition to your primary task as your wife, daughter, mother. Okay, so does this make sense to you all right now? That when you think back, oh yeah, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter. Oh yeah, I'm also the driver sometimes. I'm also most of the time the cook. Okay, so I have a lot of roles that I subconsciously am taking in, but I now realize that I actually have a lot of roles. And again, these roles are not set in stone, but at the moment, it works for you. Again, I said the family function is very unique. It works for you this way, it works for you right now, but it may change when it moves to a different time where you have different needs, right? Okay. So again, we have systemic roles. So we have the functional roles and we have systemic roles. Systemic roles because they preserve the uniqueness of your family. Why? Because they are unconscious. Okay, so the earlier one, these are all very conscious, right? You're very aware that you're the mother, you're the cook, you're the caretaker, everything. But unfortunately, or fortunately, systemic roles, sometimes you do it so often that you are not aware, that you end up being labeled as a caretaker, family hero, scapegoat, or the lost child. Okay, these are named because most often time we will have these, we work with families, one of these will show up. Okay, so that's why they are the example here. Not to say that there are others out there, there's actually a lot more supporting roles. These are the main systemic roles that usually comes out when we work with families. So we're going to share a little bit about the caretaker. So who is this caretaker, right? This person is usually assigned as a wife, mother, but now in this day and age, you could have a house husband taking up the role as well, right? So, and then they have to take care if they're swapping, they stay at home, they work from home, they will be doing this. And in what we call dysfunctional families, meaning families who are not aware, they don't have goals, they're a bit chaotic, caretakers can often become enablers as well. And what is enablers? Because they then take on the responsibility of other person, their family member. Remember, everyone has their role, but then the mother or the father in the sense, to trying to be all equal here with those house husbands, can take on too much, right? And then that leaves the other family members not knowing how to step up and be responsible and accountable for their particular role or task. So there's a tendency for the caretaker to overfunction in the family. Any one of you, okay, maybe not raising your hands, but you all cannot. Do you all have anyone that you know they are doing this caretaking at the moment? I will not. Yes. 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 So it exists. It's among us, right? They do for others what others should do for themselves. Okay? Yeah. So that's occupational hazard. If you know now today there's someone in that role, just keep in mind, they have this tendency to place their family above their own. And sometimes, actually most times, the needs of the caretakers are often overlooked by the family, thinking that, but you do it what? It's kind of your role, ma. How come you never pick up the laundry? It's always you, that kind of thing, right? It's never like, oh, because you can't make it, or there's the laundry dry clean have to pick up, you're not available, I'll do it. Or somebody just naturally would offer, but no, it's kind of like always fall onto the caretaker. So emotional, physical well-being being neglected as well because they keep giving, they keep helping, right? It could be so often that they disguise the weakness with a mask of perpetual strength. Again, because they've always been doing, like, they feel that this role is ultimately their role and they feel that this is something that they should be doing it. If not, they feel guilty. Okay, over time, you can imagine, you have burnout. It's really tiring and exhausting. And it's just, at the same time, there's this feeling of selfishness if they feel that they don't do something for others. So this is very true in a sense where, let's say, a mother, I'm going to use female at this point, for example, feels that their son and daughters are certainly supposed to do certain household chore, but they feel like if it's too much, she will take over and keep doing it. And the father knowingly know that developmentally at this point, the child is a teenager, they should be able to pick up after themselves. However, the father never said anything. So the mom will just do all the household chores, including what you think a teenager should do, at least put the laundry properly, or at least fold their own clothes, whatever the family has set up for the rules to do to function in the family. However, this mom then would have a tendency to just do everything. Even though it's set there, father never say anything, mom would just say, I'll take over. So overfunction, literally. And then the children, the teenage child, would never learn how to then work on these tasks as an accountable person, right? So you see this here, who is the victim? But you still, okay, think in singularity. Directly, mom is the victim, right? Yeah. At the same time, the children enabled mom to be in that state. And then the dad is also the enabler in some ways. And mom feels that without doing, she's not useful. So then it feels the cycle again and again and again. Yeah. So is this example clear? Like, do you all experience this? I mean, when I look back and I was doing my program, when I was studying fresh, I was like, oh, I had like what moments like, oh, a lot of right? So I realized that, okay, I could be onto something here, So yes, just think back if you have any moments like this when you're growing on right now, presently. I can share. I'm a grown adult in my 40s, but my mom lived very close to me. She still appears in my house, putting in fruits into my fridge and will cook for me. So what do you think? Did I enable it? Probably I do, but I don't say anything, right? I should tell her to stop. But if I tell her to stop, she'll say that, why you want to be so busybody? If I cook for you, you eat lah, right? So you see this cycle of interaction and this kind of whole caretaker thing has led my mom to feel purposeful. If she don't feel purposeful, she don't feel needed. So I'm kind of in this like, okay lah, whatever lah, right? Let's keep this interaction like that for now. If it serves the purpose for you to feel that you're helping me, it's okay. Yeah. So the hero. So that's also one of the most seen, would say, systemic role. Basically, the hero makes the family look good. It could be a sibling, it could be the hero in your family that actually stands out, right? And always try to be perfect, look good. Basically, wherever you go, when the hero comes in, wow, my daughter with the straight A is here. But why is my daughter with a straight A? But it's my daughter with a straight A. So there's no other, they label that as a hero, right? Their daughter has a name, but it's my daughter with a straight A. Okay, so as children, like, do you feel like, now you think back, right? Was I ever labeled like that? Like, but because the parents are so proud, right? So then as adult, they are successful at work. They assume the leadership, because you take on this role because somehow for the role of a hero, you like that it helps you to create that great self-esteem, the confidence, right? And you become super responsible in all your relationship because you've been reinforced positively by it, right? Growing up. Okay. But there's occupational hazard with a hero. What happens to the hero? Because you tend to then neglect your own need to fulfill others' need, because you get fueled by that. The positiveness that you receive from people, right, actually makes you feel good and you keep wanting that. And you feel extremely guilty when you pursue your own desire. Okay. So some path, I think some path in our lives, sometimes we will experience that. Again, this is not set in stone. Sometimes we could be different roles in our family members. For example, sibling A may not always be the hero. Okay, someday it would be swapped by a sibling C, becomes the hero. But there's some point in our lives that we go through this phase. Becoming to attach to the behavior to please others. So at the end of the day, the term people pleasing is usually the hero. But you think back, is this term people pleasing what the person really like to be called? They are not born as a people pleaser. It's again the environment that enabled this person having the need to please others because they've been reinforced over the time in the system that they grew up with, right? So being overly dependent on others for self-worth, you can see the hero tends to fit in all the positivity they receive externally. Then that's what they learn. That's what they know. And vulnerability to guilt and depression when falling. So failure. So when they fail and they don't succeed, they fall really hard because they require external to pick them up, right? Okay, so the scapegoat. So it's opposite of the hero. Okay, in some family members, unit-wise, we have some people that identify as a scapegoat. So this is usually acting out the family's problem. Oh, why did you tell the Auntie A that we have all these problems in the house? We shouldn't say that. The moving forward, it's like, if anything happens to spill over, is it you? Is it you? Did you tell your cousin? So again, we always have this, but it could not be this person. It's just unconsciously or at the same time being identified because this is the child who probably may say instantly too much. And then moving forward is labeled as a scapegoat, right? So, and then this child eventually feels like I didn't say much, but fine, if you say so, becomes more angry, defiant, right? And then in absence of all the positive information, they always get the negative, what's that, the kind of reinforcement from the parents. Then yeah, they will continue to misbehave because it's a cycle. Yeah. So occupational hazard, even the scapegoat has an occupational hazard because they continue on being the scapegoat, just like whatever lah, let it be lah. It's always me. And this is true. I can share a personal experience because I have a cousin who's younger than me, but he's now a dad with 2 kids. When we were young, he was considered the most naughtiest cousin among all of us. Even if it's not his fault, my grandfather would say, it's you. Poor kid. We play firecrackers during Chinese New Year. So he will be the cousin who buy all the firecrackers. And we are all excited because he's the firecracker supplier. Right? Because all our parents like, no, cannot play. But he'll bring all the firecrackers. Okay, because he's a bit loose rules in his families, right? They allow him to. So he's a fun cousin, right? But next thing you know, my grandfather found out that he's a bunch of firecrackers. He's like, no, cannot, must be you, ban, scapegoat. So next time, it was not him, he couldn't bring. The next year, we all three went and buy and we brought. Even before my grandfather say anything, you bring this year again, kena. So we all stand aside there, scared. He gonna scolded by grandfather, scapegoat. Yeah, so you see, so this happens. And then moving forward, right now he's okay. He's a dad with 2 kids and he's learned that he has always been a scapegoat. So he's tried to keep quiet, but sometimes he speaks out now. So again, he's aware that he's always been being, my cousin has always been kind of like funneling as that kind of role, you see. But he has an inclination to accept the blame. He's still having that now. Yeah. So a belief that no matter what does, one can never really amount too much. Meaning, as much as I try to tell the truth, you all will never believe me. Okay? So I'm just going to move forward from this. Yeah. The lost child. So this typically happens with a family system that can be quite chaotic, that's happening with certain issues. For example, when I work with special needs families, you have one child diagnosed with ASD on the spectrum, and you have other siblings who are in the state of like trying to understand why are the parents spending more time with the other sibling versus them. Okay, so they somehow feel like they're the lost child. But they don't have words for it. But when we see it, you kind of know that, okay, this child is going somewhere. They are very mild-mannered, obedient achiever. And this child will likely do anything to draw attention to themselves. And then we'll just follow through because they have always been the most comfortable child. The parents don't have to worry about. They will do things for themselves. They're very regulated in that sense. Okay? So when things happen, they will just try to cope by shutting down. Don't have to talk too much because no one really actually processed that with me. I don't have the attention that the other sibling have. Okay. Occupational hazard is, then you can see it's actually very grim for the lost child. Diminished ability to enjoy life, limited access to emotion, heightened feeling of loneliness, low self-esteem, tendency to run away, hesitancy to run away. Express emotion is also challenging because they can't really ask for what they want. So when I work with youth, at-risk youth, when I was overseas, which I'm going to share later, I see a lot of lost childs in this at-risk youth. Sometimes they're misunderstood. They can't say much because they've been deemed sentenced as wrong, but they can't bounce back without the support of someone who actually can really nurture them. Yeah, so the lost child. With the story about the kid who I work with the ASD. So the parents brought the ASD child to the center, private center that I used to work with, to get all the necessary early intervention program. Then the parents also actually have access to family coaching / consultation with me, in addition to all the early intervention programs that they go through. So they brought up the fact that they have an older son who recently became defiant. They use the word defiant because all this while, the son, he's about 10, started to behave very irregularly, like trying to get attention by doing funny things, get in trouble in school, all in all, so to, what do you think? Get attention from the parents. Worst thing that he ever did was he stole his auntie's laptop from a family gathering. So the parents couldn't believe it because he was the really obedient child that the last thing you imagine he would do is to steal an auntie's laptop to bring home without telling anyone. Of course, stealing. So this caught the parents' attention. Parents really took notice of like, what is this? Why is this here? This is not ours. Oh, it's auntie's. Did you ask her? No, I just took it. Very nonchalantly, right? So then the problem starts unveiling itself. This where I talk to the parents, I noticed that in their family system, a lot of tension has been then moved to the younger sibling that is on the spectrum. So the 10-year-old boy is left to process on his own what is going on. And the parents really don't have much interaction except for make sure you take care of your brother, look after your brother. It's everything all about the brother. So again, interactions in the family systems is very important. Remember the circularity. This is not going to stop. It's going to keep going on if the parents don't realize where to extract out and change that kind of behavior, right? So again, the lost child. That's cutting the story short. But ultimately, the parents were able to fix the challenging problem with the older child and resume sessions therapy well with me. And yeah, so basically, as long as the parents understand where their challenges are, they are attending to it well. Mascot is the funny person in your family. So some of us actually will have the comedy cousin or the funny brother or sister that always lightens up the room. right? I don't know if any of you have the kind of experience. You have one or two, if not more, of these roles that you play in your existing family members as well. So this role is needed because when there's time of stress, the mascot will then be cheering up the family. Okay? And then this helps to then relieve the threat to the system. Kind of just lighten up the day a little bit. So it makes everyone happy, laugh, and then basically entertaining others lah. So sometimes the family mascot, can be the youngest of the child. It can be because why it's so cute, and then they learn that they be so cute, everywhere they go, they like to be cute to everyone, get all the attention, right? So think about it. Who in your existing family system plays the mascot? Yeah. There's also occupational hazard. So all roles come with an occupational hazard. So the mascot here actually have challenged to take their own self seriously as well, because they've always been so easygoing and like just chill and make everyone happy. Then masking emotional pain, sometimes not even able to process it because their job is to make others feel happy. And then hesitancy to disagree openly with others, inability to ask for help. Basically, a lot of internalizing. There's a lot of internalizing going on with the mascot. Same as a lost child. A lot more of not able to share freely or express freely with others, right? It's just the idea here with the mascot is they fuel themselves with being the center of tension of everybody. And again, eventually you have a lot of fatigue and exhaustion from just being the mascot. Okay. Any questions so far from these supporting roles, I call it? All good? Okay. We're going to move into analyzing your roles now. So now that you know a little bit about your primary roles, your secondary roles. Oh, yes. Hi. Yes, good question. Again, the roles will overlap. So when you mean that one day, for example, you play the role of the mascot, next day, someone else plays the mascot, or you take mascot and, for example, the hero. Is it that way? Yeah, you can. Yes, depending on the situation. It's not set in stone. Depending on what serves the purpose for you to play that role. Yeah. So, for example, I would say one situation where you can play that role is the actual mascot is not there, and you take over that role of the mascot while you're playing your own existing role as a caretaker. So it could be a sibling who was the mascot, have to travel overseas to study or no longer staying in the country. You are the other sibling that stays at home with the parents. So you now then take over the role as the mascot and caretaking as well. Yeah. So in this exercise, again, the primary purpose is for you to evaluate the roles that you play in your family and the existing relationships that you have with them. And the roles that are more rigidly followed in childhood are likely to replicate in your adulthood. Why? So now think about it. What roles have I been playing when I was younger that I'm taking in right now, and I consciously now realize I'm applying that in my adulthood? Okay? So this is kind of like analyzing your role activity. Okay, this is a lot, but any of you, are we good with time? Need any break? Because we should take a break first before we get to this. There's quite a bit to process in this activity. Shall we take a 10 minutes? Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think, yeah. Yeah.
So what we can do is we can take a short break. So remember it's a santai session. So it's like high tea come sharing session. So can you maybe everyone can proceed to the back as well? Can I request Afika, right? That's Afika. Okay. Afika will be opening the paper, the saline wrap, and then you guys can help yourself to the food, the yummy, delicious, very unique food over there. So, anybody who has any dietary restriction, perhaps I just want to give you a little bit of heads up. So the spaghetti bolognese is actually made with beef, okay, but everything else should be good, all right? So just in case, all right? So you can help yourself, bring it to your table, and then while we're processing, we can also process some stuff here as well, okay?
Okay, so everybody can stretch and go get food before we start the next activity too. Yeah.
Oh, you are Hani. Oh, hi, Hani. Nice to meet you in person. Alright. Knowing about it, sampai semalam. Dia dah tapi kan tadi tu lagi dia dah tapi unstable tu daripada semalam lah. Jumpa adik saya kat sana lah. Boleh. Tak jauh sangat pun, 2 jam je. Berapa orang tu? Tak tahu. Nak balik boleh tak? Boleh, jom. Tiga. Awak step up everything. Tak ada penuh. Kena balik rumah tu, baju. Balik. Oh ya, tapi sekali jalan satu jalan. Sekali jalan. Sebab dia ke arah atas. Sekali jalan. Oh, gitu. Kelintan. Mungkin di sini. Ada satu lima. Break kan ni. Break makan. Ya Allah, bau bolognese. I send you. Fam, you ni nak buat party. Wow.
And then I'm like, and my three hands, I'm like, oh, but it's Zero.
Okay, everyone, let's have like another 10 minutes to like finish the food and then we wrap up so that we can like totally focus. Yeah,
Oh, there. I'll be very scared.
Okay, everyone, are you enjoying? It's good. We want you to enjoy. So when we're trying to like stomach everything at the moment, so you can also stomach other things. but like so we hope that you can also participate, with the next activity. And yeah, we hope that you can actually like partake in that as well. So let's join back again. Okay.
Thanks, Pam. So I hope everybody's less hungry, well fed, feeling better. We all have food in the stomach. And thank you, Pam, for the lovely, lovely catering food. I think I was marveled at. Do you all have the roti jala chocolate? I was like marveled by the creativity of roti jala with chocolate. Okay. So moving on to this activity, for those of you who are still eating, please continue to eat. Don't feel compelled to do this if you're not ready, but listen in. So this activity is actually analyzing your roles. So earlier we were talking about the roles and how these roles actually help us to execute what we are supposed to do in our own respective families. Yeah. So now we're moving on to this. Okay, so if you all have your own notebooks or papers available, so if you can, just follow the mapping of the boxes here and kind of just put in the role, goals, behaviors, flexibility, comfort, V. So you will all get a copy of the slides, but just for the, I would say, exercise right now, you can simplify the, I guess you understand what your notes you've taken, right? Put it into your notes first. So leave the bottom caretaker, husband, all these are for you to fill up. I have a step-by-step instruction, but just kind of just outline the whole thing first. Role, goals, behaviors, flexibility, comfort, value as such. Okay, maybe just a quick one. You can just draw the boxes. And I will move to the, hang on. Where is it? Yeah. Explanation. Okay, just let me know when you've done the framework first of the boxes. Don't fill in the role first because that's not your role. That's the sample. Fill in the box first, okay? Okay. So fill in the role, list it later, but just fill in all the big category first. Yeah. And I'll guide you all one by one to fill in the role, the goals, the behaviors, and so forth. Are we okay? Do you all get it? Shall I start one by one now? Okay. So let's look at the role. Okay. In the role, list your main role that you play in your significant relationship. So for this activity, if you want to make it simplify, you can do your own immediate family members, meaning mom, dad, you, if you want to do that. Or if you have mom, dad, you, sisters, and whatnot, you want to include, you can. So in each line, that's how you actually input the role. So let's look at role first. Caretaker with husband is an example. So this is, for example, let's put it myself. So this is not me, but for example, I'm a caretaker with my husband. Okay, that's one role. I'm also a caretaker with a 3-year-old son. I'm also a hero with my mother. That's me. Okay, so for your activity now, first step is to list your role. Can we all do that? You will let me know once it's done. Yes. Yeah. So remember earlier we have the roles of caretaker, like the mascot. Yes. So you can also put those roles inside here. That's the role. Yeah. Do you need me to go back to refresh? Okay, we have. Let me go. Oh, here. Caretaker, family, hero, scapegoat, lost child. So these are some of the roles that we discussed today. So other supporting roles that are not here are like the perfect child. But I don't think for our context of activity, we make it simplify a bit. So let's just kind of stick to those roles that we are more familiar with that can appear in our family context. Yeah. So think of hero, mascot, lost child, caretaker, scapegoat. Yeah. Again, you can do this individually on your own and don't feel compelled to need to share. The reflection later on is basically for yourself to understand these roles better. Yeah. You can also put, sorry, I'm not making myself clear. Apart from the caretaker role, you have also a sister or mother role, right? So these are confirmed roles that you're playing, right? You can also put that in as well. For me, I'm just noticing that the caretaker role and the hero role is more prominent. That's why I'm putting in there. Yeah. Are we good with the roles? Can I move on to the goals now? Okay, so goals here is relate these goals to the role you play with this person. So you'll have something, for example, caretaker with husband. So I need to relate this goal. So for me, if I'm a caretaker with my husband, I would like to aim for companionship. I would like to aim for meeting mutual needs together. Okay, so whatever that your goals are for this relationship, what are you aiming for? And then if it's a caretaker for my 3-year-old son, I would like to ensure that this role I take on as a caretaker ensures his personal growth, hitting the developmental milestones, and also nurturing his emotional development as a caretaker for 3-year-old. And then in hero with my mother, I would like to make sure that the goal is to make my mom proud. I need to be a responsible daughter, and I need to ensure that I feel good about myself. Yes. Mm-hmm. Separate. So caretaker with my mother, hero with my mother. Yes, 2 boxes. Otherwise, it'd be very confusing because you're breaking it down to literally understanding your roles in that sense. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Mm. Mm. As a role? Mm. Aww. So you can just put wife. Yeah, you're just a wife. So basically the systemic, so we're talking about the systemic roles here. So you identify yourself with the primary roles, secondary roles, and systemic roles, right? So what we're exploring here is we are confirmed we are a wife, right? We are confirmed we are also maybe the best cook in a relationship. Yeah, but apart from that, I also have systemic roles. Maybe you have not identified a systemic role yet, right? So that's fine. You can go with wife. Yeah. Okay, we have all the goals. We're going to move on to the next one. So the behaviors. Okay, so you want to list the characteristics of the behaviors required by your role to ensure that you can take this on to execute this role. So for example, to be a caretaker with my husband, I have to shop for his clothes. I have to buy his presents for his mother and his family. I have to pick up after him. So these are the behaviors, the characteristics that I have to do to ensure that this role continues, sustains. And for the caretaker of a 3-year-old son, I have to make sure that I read to him, bathe him, feed him, because I'm trying to ensure that I need to promote his growth, he's healthy, he's doing well, reading well, hitting the milestones. For my mother, I need to make sure that I continue to have daily contact with her, be involved in communities, take her to shopping, that so that she's not alone, she has me. So things like that. These are the behaviors that I'm listing, the actions I have to do to ensure that my goal is met. Yes. Mm. 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 Yeah. Correct. So then you make sure that your characteristic, your action is reducing visitations to mom, or reducing cooking, or cooking less for mom, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Do we all have the behaviors, or do you need some time to put those in? We're good? Okay, for those of you who are still working on the behaviors, but we're moving on, take your time, don't feel compelled to, but if you need me to go back there, I will. We'll move on to the flexibility first. So it's a scale of 1 to 10. So when you look back at this role that you have, okay, look into the flexibility. Is this rigid, or is this a flexible role? 1 meaning it's super rigid. I can't change. I just have to fix myself to do this. And 10 meaning it's very flexible. Anytime I can move this role to someone else, I can stay behind the scene a little bit. Someone else can take over the role. Okay. When you look at the flexibility, look into what you've put into the characteristics of your behavior and the goals that you want to achieve. Okay. This is how you kind of analyze whether it's flexible or not flexible. Okay. So we're good. So for this example, it's really not that flexible, because ultimately I probably am the very responsible one, and knowingly I will pick up after the husband. So it's a 3. I clearly know that. And for a caretaker for a son, he's only 3 years old. I cannot delegate this role to someone else. I will make it a 3, right? And a hero and mother, even more responsibility. So it's a 2. Okay. So that's the flexibility. Are we good with this? Can I move on to the next one? Comfort. How comfortable are you with executing this role? Again, look into the behaviors and the goals. The comfort level for 1 is basically you don't have to feel compelled to. Anytime you feel like you want to take a step back, you can. And then 10 means I really feel compelled to fulfill this role. Yeah. Okay, so 1 to 10, 10 meaning I feel compelled to do this role a lot, and 1 meaning not compelled. It's okay, like it's really not so much on me, because I know someone else will also assist me to take on this role, to execute it as well. So for this example, the caretaker with husband role, not so much, because I feel like I'm the only one doing this. So I am compelled to ensure this goes on. Caretaker with 7-year-old son. Well, looks like my husband can take care with me, but he's just gonna take care of himself. But in terms of parenting, he's a really good dad. And with Hero and my mom, it looks like it falls upon me because I'm the daughter, right? I feel compelled to. Okay, are we good with comfort? Okay, so the next role, it's looking at the value. So when you look at the value, 1 meaning how much meaning it is for you to execute this role, how meaningful it is for you. Role wise, goals wise, behavior wise, look into these points. 1 meaning is very, very no meaning at all. 10 meaning is very meaningful. Like this feels my purpose. Like I put value into this. Like there's amount weighted in this role for me. Yeah. So at this moment, you can see this lady here. Let's take it example if it's me, very exhausted already. Like really like burnout 1. Okay. But for the son, look at that. It's a 10. Yeah. Okay. And then for the mother, it's very tired, burnout already, taking care. Yeah. So in this family dynamic for this lady here, she has different subsystem. Subsystem with the husband, you can see is very interesting. Subsystem with the child, very interesting as well. Subsystem with the mother, her own mother, also very interesting as well. So she's going through different phases in her roles and trying to execute it as much as possible, right? Okay. So as you're doing this activity and you're realizing certain roles that you're taking on, it could be some roles that you inherited since you were young and you're now move on to adult relationship or in your adult sense of perceptions about families. When you have these realizations, just know that these roles are not permanent. You can always change based upon the situation you're in. You are transitioning to a different situation. As long as you have the awareness, there's this ability for you to make that, I would say, the flexibility, comfort, and value differently each time. Okay, any questions so far? So again, this is not something for you to like judge yourself. Oh no, I'm a horrible daughter. Why? How can I say this about my mother? It's my mother. It's not about that. It's just really analyzing the role that I'm doing it, and do I want to continue to maintain this? And if so, I have a good sense of self, and I don't build resentment. I have proper interaction with my family members to say, hey, can someone take this role with me? I'm quite exhausted. This is helping you to facilitate that conversation as well. Yeah. Okay. Are we good with this? If so, we will be moving on to the next concept. Yeah? Okay. So the next concept is individual scripts. Have any of you heard this term before? Individual scripts. Yeah? Okay, so it's actually a script from the Adlerian therapy, but let's not go into all the names of the master therapists at this moment, because the idea here is we want to make sure that we can extract these contexts and put them into working document for you to do it on your own or with your students or with your clients, okay? So individual script is basically your personal script, the most important factors that influence who you become today. And in early childhood, all of us actually already have our life and guiding goals that, you know, we are not aware, but has already imparted to us. And the script itself is actually directing us to head towards the lifestyle that we are moving to. So your script is actually composed for you to survive and thrive in your childhood environment, and also you carry over to your adulthood, okay? Basically, you thrive in your original family, meaning your immediate mom, dad, you, and actual siblings, if you have siblings. And then people tend to perform the script throughout adulthood, even though it may no longer produce the result that they desire, the results they desire. Meaning, for example, a caretaker mom, let's say Carol. Carol has been always caretaking mom, sister to, for example, maybe just sister. Carol is a sister to May. And then May has always been the younger sister, Carol's older sister. But Carol gets married, for example, and she has her own family member right now. And she continues that script that she needs to provide. And she takes on too much because she continues to provide. So her script is, I need to provide. If I don't provide, I don't feel complete. I'm compelled to provide because my entire childhood growing up, I care for my younger sister. I was told that my sister is everything. I have to protect her. I have to do this. So this then kind of transferred into her adulthood, into probably if she works together, she may exude this kind of character traits in the workplace, very caring, super caring, and ensure that everyone is very nurturing. The same kind of lifestyle that she takes on. And then she transfers also to her marriage life, that maybe she'll do that with a child or with a husband. So again, the scripts that you have, it's written in that manner, and you maybe not consciously aware that is there already. Okay? So your personal script is based on one of those 4 life positions. I'm okay, you're not okay. What does that mean? I'm okay, you're not okay. It kind of tells you that it's like I'm above you a little bit, I'm okay, but you're not okay. That kind of belief. Okay? I'm not okay, you're okay. It's like, yeah, right? In some ways, inferiority, but also it says that as long as you're okay, I'm good. It's okay, I don't eat, as long as you eat, okay? Just as long as you eat. So you're taking that stance of priority-wise, other people first, then you, okay? I'm not okay, you're not okay. Meaning I am always hypervigilant, looking out for danger. Like, okay, I'm not okay. You must be not okay too, because I'm not okay. You must be not okay. So it's always in that belief, right? And the final one, I'm okay, you're okay. Meaning you're good. So I have a pessimistic, the earlier one, and an optimistic view. Okay? Yeah. So scripts are not permanent. Again, like we earlier mentioned, scripts, roles, they are not permanent, because actually if you let them determining the course of the pattern of your life, it's only when you allow them to. So you can always rewrite your scripts. So it's like you're a director directing your own stage, you write your own script. Literally, metaphorically, you put it in a sense. So every script can be written to bring about positive change in your life. So this is when, again, the awareness sets in. When you have the awareness, you get to rewrite your scripts. When I say rewrite your script, meaning you look back into your roles earlier, you were analyzing them. What can you do differently? And where would you like to start to do differently? Okay. So activity 3 is also another activity where we're trying to see, based on our learned life scripts, how we respond to significant events. Okay, so the purpose of this activity again is for you to consider your own characteristics, your style of life, okay? Enable you to trace your adopted lifestyle, meaning what you have adopted in your formative early years in childhood. That's the script that you've been, I would say, imparted to you. And then how do you usually react to stressful events using that script that you have known, okay? And then do you normally concentrate on the positive elements to ensure that you feel optimistic when you encounter challenges? Or do you ultimately focus to the negative? What does your script tells you to do? Example, in your family, when you have a crisis in your family, you were growing up, people start yelling first. It's okay to yell because we're having a crisis. Or your family tells you, oh, we have a crisis now. Let's come up with a plan. You take this role. You take this role. So that's your script. Okay? So this activity is kind of how we respond to these significant events. It can be a crisis. It can be a happy thing, but it's up to you how you want to analyze it. So again, you don't feel compelled to share, but it's more of your own reflection. Okay? So in a box like this, so you want to get your piece of paper, pen, draw a 4-quadrant. One box, significant event. Second box, expectations of others. Third box, left quadrant, my expectations. And right side, actual response. Okay, let's just take a few minutes to get this box set up first. Okay. Are we all good? Do we have that? Few more minutes or seconds. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next page. I can come back to this if you need me to. Okay, so we've done step 1, actually. You've drawn the boxes. So we move to step 2 now. So in your significant event, so everyone, we are moving to the significant event box. Identify personal event So any time from childhood to present day, if you would like to bring that up, okay, that you consider to have been significant in shaping the course of your life for better or for worse. So again, if this brings up, please be mindful of what you want to bring up, and you can also choose not to bring up and just leave this activity alone. But if you feel like you want to try it out, so you can choose which part of your event, your lifeline, you can decide which part you want to bring up and put it inside there. One event. So this event has the influence or shape you for better or for worse. You can also do it silently in your thoughts. That's also acceptable. Sometimes writing helps you to process it better. So sometimes we are more like thinking, we like to put in the thoughts first. If you are ready, you can move on to the step 3. Basically, in the expectations of others, you describe briefly how particular family members and friends expected you to respond to the event. Again, just take your time. If you need to process it a little bit, think back a little bit to recall. And step 4, okay, I'm just going to explain and I'll show you what it looks like at the final example, okay? In your expectation, write down your own expectations at that time. And step 5 is actually the actual response. Note how you actually responded to the event. So I'm just going to fast forward to what it looks like. So this is example, okay? So maybe this helps you a little bit to put down in words or in thoughts. So this is a client. Parents divorced when I was 14 years old. And then expectations of others. Mom expected me to be her best friend and to take over a lot of household responsibilities. So the divorce was the significant event. Expectations of others, she perceived, okay, she needed to be, because she's alone now with mom, okay, take a lot of responsibilities because no longer have that. So, but my own expectation is that I thought that things would be saner, meaning I guess the parents really, really quarreled badly, argued badly, and more peaceful when dad left. But mom took on a lot of his behaviors, right? So the actual response for me, I did everything mom wanted at first, but it just got to be too much after a while, and I rebelled. I couldn't wait to leave home. So you have a few roles happening for this young lady here. She was probably trying to be the hero because she's the daughter, of course. She tried to also be the hero because mom needs a best friend, a support, right? But unfortunately, it got too much, and then she just went out. She's done. Yeah. So this is just one part of it. So if you actually think back and do this activity with your clients, or if it's just yourself, you can actually extract that segment in your life. You kind of see what you have responded to and how could you do better differently if you encounter this in future or presently. So some of this you may not be able to process, which is also a sign where you say, maybe I need someone to help me to do this. I could either see a professional, I could talk to someone that I realized, this has actually happened to me and this is where my knot is. I realize I get stuck whenever I encounter the situation. Yeah. So again, if you have to process this in your thoughts, do so. If you have to write it down, you feel like you're making sense to you when you write down, do it. Again, don't feel compelled to share. Just do it on your own pace. Let me see what's next. Okay. So for those of you who is done, you don't have to write paragraph. If you feel like you're a bullet, you can write in bullet points, but this is just an activity to get you started. So there's some reflection with this activity as well. Maybe you can ask yourself a few questions when you look at the box, at the quadrant. How is the information characterizing your lifestyle? Okay, And then just maybe writing it at the side or mental notes in your head. Include adjectives such as, how you describe your behavior and attitude at time. Were you optimistic, pessimistic? Were you courageous, coward, aggressive, or kind of stuck looking at that situation? And then ask yourself what general habits or tendencies and attitudes that you have predominated in your responses to this event that is very much impactful to you. So again, this reflection can be done privately. And if you don't want to write it down and you don't want to do it now, it's fine. It's okay. Because when you have time later on, after today, you like to open up and you like to do this again, you can do so. But ultimately, the idea here is that you're trying to analyze and look into your family interactions, looking into your behaviors, your emotional responses to each other. Why is there always a threat that I have to say something, I feel threatened? Well, how come our family speaks this way? How come we can't have a proper sit-down conversation when things are not going well? Why do we have to yell in a family? Or is normalcy to scream and yell to get things across something of a family rules that we set up, right? Okay. So remember we talk about the family rules. Sometimes rules can be healthy and toxic. So were these the rules that were then dominating my life kind of thing? But I can make a change right now. I don't have to yell to get things across. Now I know better, right? So these are some of the thoughts, reflections that you have when it comes to looking into your significant events, how you identify with. Again, this ties back to, remember we talked about early times, the goals, the family roles, and then you have the rules as well. Yeah? Okay. So moving forward, we're going to go to family rules. Okay. Are we good with this? Yeah? Okay. So next is family rules and family types, right? So I mentioned a little bit earlier about the family rules already. So families are rule-governed systems and regulated by rules. Do y'all just realize that now today? Or like, yeah, we could actually function today because our families have set rules for us. And we actually set rules. If you're a parent, you set rules for your child. Yeah? Yeah. So it enables the family to achieve the goal and execute daily responsibility, right? So family members can get all their net needs. So if you're assigned to be helping to cook, if you don't cook, the family is going to be like what? Staying hungry for how many hours until you prepare the meal. So that it upsets the family system. We call that the homeostasis. It could be a minor one, not a big one. Somebody has to cook to ensure that we are not hungry. Then it comes back to, we call it equilibrium, balance again. Okay? So family rules determine the behavior patterns of individuals in the family. Again, the family rules will actually sometimes show how family values are. Right? So you have different types of family rules that are set up or even being intergenerationally passed down to your families as well. So rules implies how individuals characteristically behave or how they're expected to behave. So essentially, rules make sure that we execute, we are actually functioning in that particular task that we have to. We try to follow it at best. If we don't, it creates anxiety. It creates a lot of uncertainty. And then you shake up the whole system again. Again, think about it. It's not just a family. Anything that's a unit, you work together. If you don't fulfill your role, it creates anxiety to others. Anxiety to others, they respond back to you. So it's a kind of circularity thing, right? So family rules in your original family tend to be repeated in adulthood. I mentioned earlier. So if you don't see it as a problem or you don't recognize it that it's unhealthy rules, you probably think that's normal. That's what families do. So if you think back, so this is a story I heard before that. The grandfather always was a very strict grandfather to the grandchildren. And when the grandchildren don't do well, he slaps them. But he has a favorite grandson, but he don't slap that grandson. Slap other grandchildren. So come forward, this grandson, favorite grandson, grew up and is father to 2 kids. So these 2 kids, guess what the father do? Slaps the child. Part of the discipline that the favorite grandchildren picked from the grandfather. Okay, so this is how he thinks that this is where it's disciplining the child. But never did he think that it's actually not wrong, right? So this is not all families, but you're looking at the generational or passing down what deems to be the rule. If you do something wrong, the rule is to get slapped. There's no other way to explain it. No point explaining. It's just wrong, slap. Yeah. So rules may be overt, covert, meaning very much openly talked about or quietly implied. Appropriate, inappropriate, meaning is it appropriate for the milestone, nurturing the emotional, social of the child when they're growing up? Inflexible or rigid, can it change over time? Can it be, or is this permanent? Our rules is like this. If you leave the house and you are not back by 10 p.m., we lock the door. That's it. Then you don't have a home to go in. Even if you have the key, nobody's going to open the door for you. We'll change or something like that. So it's just very rigid, right? Healthy or toxic, meaning, for example, families who set rules as very autocratic, meaning I'm the only one that can say yes, you can't say no. If it's a family secret, you cannot tell anyone. If you tell anyone, so and so is going to happen to you. Very, very, very toxic to the family. Whereas healthy rules will tell you to promote your growth, meaning it's open to discussion. It may not be agreeable, but you have that discussion. That's very open, very safe, very inclusive. Okay? But by all means, we're not judging our own families. We were brought up in that way that they possibly could. But these are things that we can then identify when we look into family systems. Whether you're working with clients, whether you're realizing you're talking to someone, oh my goodness, they are going through this. I just learned about it today. No wonder, I see something now. So all these questions will start coming out in your perception. So family types, really quickly. There are actually more than these 3 family types, but these 3 main family types will usually show up in our conversations working with families. So the democratic family, again, it's like the places highest, the most balanced, you can say, or highest in value for equality, freedom, responsibility, basically a good mixture of autocratic, permissive style, meaning it's a very healthy family that you have a balance of rules, responsibility, and freedom. So basically, if you have democratic family practices, your rules are pretty flexible and they're most oftentimes appropriately for your developmental milestones to ensure that you grow up to be a healthy, responsible child, right? And then you have permissive family. You have children are really allowed to chart their own growth. It's okay. Let them do what they want. They will learn their way. And then the responsibility is okay. They decide if they don't want to brush today, they can brush tomorrow, that kind of thing. I mean, teeth, okay? Yeah, minimal emphasis to order and routine. So if they get rotten teeth, they get rotten teeth because they didn't brush every day, that kind of thing. Like, you know, the different parenting styles have different outcomes or goals they want to instill. Rules, highly flexible to none. Okay, so it really depends. Autocratic family, one or both parents are absolute, meaning if I'm yes, you cannot know me. If you know me, that's it. Yeah. Difficult for children to establish independence because they learn what? To people please. Because in order to get what they want, they have to just obey. Then ultimately you realize that, oh, I've been doing this for a long time because I was brought up in a family like this. So I now learn that I don't have to do that anymore. So again, it takes a lot of insight for someone to have that awareness, right? Rules, very inflexible. It's very rigid. And you don't want to step outside. The moment you step outside, you don't know what kind of punishment or something you will get. Inappropriate, rigidly enforced. Yeah. So again, some families don't have just one democratic style. It will be a blend. For example, if you have a family of 4, brother older, sister younger, that may be very, very strict on you as a brother, right? But somehow very, very chill, a bit mix of democratic and permissive with your sister younger. So it could also be differently spread across. So I think you will know best how this combination, a mixture, happens to you in your family as well. You will see this change across the time as well. Because again, our parents, there's no manual to become a parent. You will learn it from the parents, which is their grandparents, your grandparents above you, and you kind of just learn it. If you have more information now, you do better parenting. But a lot of times it's learning by mirroring each other, right? Okay, so again, they actually can cross each other It's not necessarily one. If you come across one full autocratic family, there's a lot of work to do, right? But usually it's a mixture, oftentimes. Yeah. Okay, so the key highlight for this concept here is that functional roles really enables you to move smoothly. Do you all remember what are the functional roles? There's two. Primary and so these two, they rely on you to do. The family unit relies on you to execute this to ensure that it runs. Systemic roles helps you to preserve the uniqueness. So basically, your supporting roles like the caretaker, the hero, the mascot, it's unique to your own family only. Other families will have a different version of mascot and caretaker. Okay? And then we talk about individual scripts. Scripts are usually unconscious. Remember, I mentioned that you take this on formative years, your childhood, early years, and then you really don't realize that until you look into the cycle, you really analyze it, and then you choose to behave differently once you realize it, right? When you are ready to uncover it. And then finally, healthy rules foster emotional, psychological, spiritual, social well-being. So literally that versus a toxic rules destabilizes the family and homeostasis. So this also to say that if you have a family member that's actually well-versed in the rules, everyone follows the routine, one day suddenly your sibling comes back home and say, I quit. I don't want to be in this family anymore. I want to leave. I want to go abroad. I don't want to stay with you all. It will then trigger a whole anxiety from your mom, dad, to yourself, because you're all a unit, right? So this is how rules, roles, and our scripts all intertwine together. It's like an internet of networking together. Okay? So any questions before I go to my experience abroad? Just very briefly today, I touch on the concepts, very much briefly on the activity so that you have a good insight into family systems, not so much on the theory, like what it is, how it is, but how can you apply? I consolidated actually all of this into a very practical activity. You can actually do it for yourself versus listening to a very boring theory and practices style, okay? But if there's any questions later, you can come and talk to me. So the next segment here is to share my experiences working with families abroad. So I did my bachelor's degree in international relations in San Francisco. And then I also have a certificate in paralegal. And then after that, I did my master's in counseling psychology to do MFT, marriage and family therapy in San Francisco. So you see, I was never working the way path to become a therapist, but I happened to chance upon it. So prior to doing bachelor's degree in international relations, I was actually a computer science major. So I went for computer science to international relations to paralegal, then you do law, and end up doing therapy. But they all, if you think it in linear, you will feel like it's not related. But you think it in circularity, it will make more meaning for you. Okay? Yeah. So, courage. So when we all think San Francisco, for those of you who have seen or been there or watched on TV or YouTube, we think of beautiful Victorian houses. And then you have cable car, hilly hills, and the beautiful Golden Gate Bridge, right? So for me to step out and say at 15 years old, I want to go abroad to study. I wasn't sure what I was studying. I was determined to go out. Very young. That I did it. I did it when I was 19. So I left home to pursue my studies. I'm the oldest of three. You can use me as a case study. I'm the oldest of three siblings. I have two younger sisters. I'm the oldest sister. Okay. So I would take accountability to say that I'm also the caretaker. In some ways, I feel obligated because I'm the oldest sister. But I think at some point, I feel like I want to venture out and do my own things. So hence, at 15 years old, I realized I want to leave after I finish high school. And by privilege and by being blessed that my family can afford to send me overseas, right? So hence I went. So then there was this street in San Francisco, it's called the Tenderloin District. Now it looks very harmless, right? Like, okay, there's some street here. And we're always told there's some streets when we go overseas, don't go there, right? It's not for visitors, right? So this is one of the area, this district. Looks very harmless. But yeah, so it's actually the most colorful, most inhabited by immigrants and also most crime there. So initially you go there, you're like, let's not go near it, right? Okay, backstory later. So basically it's like a Chowkit lah, but a big version, a 10 times more version of Chowkit. So in fact, this is the place where I actually learned a lot of family systems and I practice it there as well. So the little green dot is where my agency is. Again, when I did my master's practicum traineeship, I was based at this nonprofit agency. It's a youth center working with a lot of immigrant families that are recently or have been in the country there for purpose like bringing the child over from China, Hong Kong, Malaysian family. I've met one to have better future for the family, for the children, right? So they are low income, at risk families with youth, siblings, everyone together. So that's my office. What are all the red dots? Can you give it a guess? The red dots. Let me point here. What are these red dots? So this place is called Tenderloin, but my agency is here. I had to do my practicum here. But what are all these red dots? Yes, robberies. Robberies. So yes, I very pandai. I come from Malaysia and go to put myself here and do training here. Even my own self also have never dared to go down to our most dangerous part in Kuala Lumpur anywhere, right? But I put myself here. But my parents didn't know, by the way. They know I'm doing this course, but they didn't know how bad this area was. Yeah. So every day, this is what I see. The encampments have gotten worse over the years. More people are building shelters. So you have homelessness, drug addicts, basically everyone that shouldn't be there are there. Yeah. And then streets, you don't want to know what are on the streets by looking at the color. Okay. So my journey to walk to the office, I don't know if I'm stepping on a human feces or an animal feces. In fact, I even see people poop in front of me and pee in front of me. So you learn a lot about what's going on with the system, right? So this is something of an insight. Like, okay, shock. I go here to study, I come here and then I learn all these things I never see in my entire life. Very privileged childhood. What am I doing here? You start questioning yourself. Is this what I'm supposed to do? Like kind of thing, right? Okay, but never mind. Carry on, right? Because courage, you're there already. So this scene is not new to me. Every other day I walk to work, meaning I take the bus, I take the train, and I reach office or almost reach office, I see cops handcuffing people, which is so common already. It's nothing to be shocked already. The first time you're like, oh, got cops, what are you doing? You're a bit shocked, right? You avoid. Then after a while, you just walk past like nothing ever happens already. Literally is that, right? And then next scene, you will see kids crossing the streets because ultimately it's the most colorful, vibrant district area of the town because most immigrants come and that's the most affordable place to stay. Okay? So you can see high crime rate, low income families, B40 immigrants, everything is just there. The best Vietnamese food is also there, right? So by daytime, it's safe. By nighttime, 6 p.m., I clock off, I will not be there anymore. Crime rates will start. Okay, so what this tells me and sharing with you is that I learn about family systems deeper by going into the community here. So the kids that you're seeing here, I also see them in their schools. I do school visits. They come to the center and I do home visits. I will share with you what the home visit looks like, okay? So for a therapist, when you're doing a practicum, you're thinking that maybe I'll just see in a center, client come to me, and then I'll do therapy, I'll do intake. But this is different. I have to go to their school. And sometimes their schools are in like one of this here, dots here. Then as you walk, you're like, oh my God, am I going to shoot today? But yeah, so you have this kind of thought process in your mind again. But again, ultimately, I choose this path and I know how to take care of myself. We get briefing now, of course, they just don't send you there for safety reason. They will have a proper setup where and how to have backup and buddy, things like that. But ultimately, you have a better sense of what family systems is by being in the community itself and then bringing that knowledge back to the center or the office. Okay, any questions here? Have you all heard of this Tenderloin district? After today, you will, right? Go Google. You will see how it looks like from YouTube, how the nature of this area here has gotten worse because they've set up more booths to allow for substance people who are on substance to safely insert the drugs in there in case if anything happens to them, they get safe rather than to be on the streets. Yeah, so it has become quite chaotic. So this couple of years has been very messy there. And I actually have not been there since 3 years ago. I'm also afraid to actually walk the streets there again because it has changed already. Yeah. Okay, so capable. So what happens here is when you know that you are going to encounter such change in yourself, you look at your family systems, right? I come from a relatively privileged family that's able to send me to overseas, and I'm accountable to make sure that I spend wisely, study good, and then I need skills now. That's not enough. Totally not enough. I cannot survive on the streets. Streets meaning like work with the people on the streets, not knowing things that they are normally going through, right? I go to school. So that's University of San Francisco, and that's San Francisco State University. So very privileged to be in this institution to learn about what the country at the moment there needs to support the people there. So I have to learn about the family systems in that area to understand how to do therapy, right? It's again, wherever you go, the challenges will be there. Rather than just sticking to what you know, you have to adopt yourself, acclimatize to what works there. Okay? So with that capability, I feel that I think I can do this. I've got knowledge from the professors. I learned the skills, the program. So I think I can execute this. Okay. So this is the office where you saw the dot was. This is how the agency looked like. And then isn't a very fancy street, yeah? So imagine if you go put yourself in a placement, you're like, oh my God, this is the place. But it's okay. Just take it, right? And do it. And then this is the office. It's not very fancy. That's the main door. Literally, that's it. This is it. And then this is where the behavioral health department is. So I was based in behavioral health because I was a MFT student. This is where we keep all our case notes. That's it. This is the public, this is the public computer where we all share and use. All the interns, we have social workers, clinical psychologists, counselors, MFT, all working together in that one agency. So it's very multi-modality. Yeah. So this is the view. My parents never knew that I was here. But literally, this is also a system to understand. We are working together with multi-models of students and professionals. We have case managers as well. We have children advocacy associates. So all these terms, like, wow, I just want to help. But there's so much layers and tiers to helping this system of people. And even within that, I have another system to understand how to function, right? So, okay, let me go back to this here. Connect. Okay, so I was very privileged that, so from being a paralegal, it was a, I think, time where I decided that I needed to either pursue law or go into MFT. So the attorney that I was working with, she was a family law. She was also an immigration attorney. So I had best of both worlds. That's how I actually ended up picking MFT, because I was paralegal looking through legal documentation of psychological assessment for people who are persecuted and political asylums. I was looking at all these things. I was like, wow. And then I was also looking at marriages that gone through divorce. I was helping the attorney to mark, for example, children A gets to go to the father even number years for Christmas. Children B, another family, gets to do New Year's with mother on odd number years. So literally that system of having to separate the child hit me like, oh my goodness, am I doing this? I'm helping the lawyer to assign the children to respective families, celebrating all these big occasions, right? So the next story is, when I was working here, one of the child that was in my assignment ended up in my center. So I was no longer a paralegal at that time. I was like, wait a minute, this name is so familiar. It was at the paralegal office that the parents were having a divorce. And this child, what are the chances? Ends up at a youth center needing therapy. So you can see comes in full circle. I was very shocked because and then I told my boss supervisor, I don't think I can take this child because it is a conflict of interest. I know a little bit too much about the family, but I don't want to take on too much because I know the background. So I handed it to my colleague to do it. But again, what are the chances, right? So in the youth center where we're working, so we always have community events. Again, this is location-wise where it's the most convenient for all the family members to have their children placed there for safety. Again, think about it. If they don't have a safe place to go after school, where will they be? They will either get into gangs or they will then either stay home, but they will need to go somewhere, right? So then the youth center has all these programs for them to do after school. And the other section here is I was fortunate enough that I can also attend a high school student graduation, meaning if I take on high school student as my client, we always make it a point to attend their graduation. In the US, as most of you will have known, it's quite hard for them to graduate high school. Maybe some people don't even graduate high school at all. So it's a very big thing for them to graduate high school. So this ceremony is as big as graduating from university, yeah? So they are so privileged that they really want you to honor that moment with them, to be there. So it was my first one. So I put it here because you felt that you met your work with them, with the family, with the mother matters so much that they invited you along with the family to the graduation. So this is me and my colleague. So again, we don't just stay in the office or work in the community. We also have to do booth. So it looks like it's very hot, but it's actually very cold. But we have to do booth as well to promote advocacy of the working with you. So we actually have to do all this activity. So we also then in the agency have to work with the youth. And what we do is also we provide retreats for them. So this is me and the youth. We went for a vacation, quote unquote 3 days retreat. But in the retreat, we actually do a lot of activities to promote personal and professional growth. So these are some of the, I would say, differences when you practice or train overseas. You get the, I would say, facility exposure that you can have, right? Again, so this 2% are the things that, 2% that I have to thank to because this is my supervisor, clinical supervisor, Dr. Bradford. He's actually a clinical psychologist. So I wasn't being seen or being trained by an MFT. I was being trained or supervised by a clinical psychologist. So I have best of the both worlds. So in the US, they don't have a system where you must MFT to MFT. So I have best of both worlds, right? And then Eddie Zhang is actually my other supervisor that I work with in the intervention unit division to work with really at youth risks who are in gangs, meaning they will steal things, they will rob people, and we have to go to the juvenile detention to get them. They're on probation, basically. They have to see the court and all these cases, right? So he was formerly incarcerated, sentenced to life to prison in San Quentin, but he came out a couple of years ago, pardoned by the governor, and he's now doing a lot of foundation work. He's created his own foundation to give back to the community. If you read up, he has his own documentary. So what he did in the past was actually quite horrifying. Attempted for kidnapping and whatnot, put together with his other friends. They were 16. He was 16. He was the youngest to send to prison. But his life story gave me an idea into like, wow, if I was staying in Malaysia, I would not have an opportunity to work with incarcerated men. So he then also enrolled all his formerly incarcerated men who was released from prison to work with us at the center. So my colleagues were also incarcerated men that has given their, I think, next phase in life to the community, walking the streets of Tenderloin. So we do walkabouts. Forgot to mention. So let me go back to the streets here. Where's the street? Yeah. So if I do this alone, I'll be very scared to do walkabouts. Walkabouts, basically, you go down to the streets, okay? Grid system, very easy. So we just, hey, yo, hi, what's up? Like, if they shoot out anything, we just don't catch out first. We just tell them that, hey, our office is here. If you need anything, come and find us, right? So we got do a 3 or 4 person group. We will walk about on the streets, led by him, right? So I'm the only girl there. And then you have a couple of trainees or actual staff, but we do walkabouts so that they recognize our faces. And we are the faces that if you need anything, we got your back. So we walk. So I'm like, wow, okay, got someone. So this then helps me to relieve my anxiety. Again, my own homeostasis is like shaking, right? Like, can I do this? Oh, cannot do this. But then otherwise, the other voice telling you, you can do this. You're doing it now. So then that's how I learned that when you throw yourself into challenging situation, there's actually, with the right, I would say, network of support, you can actually do it. But anyhow, these are the walkabouts. So with that, we continue to meet each other when I go back to the US. In fact, I sat into Dr. Wu's clinical supervision. After all this year, he's still doing supervision with a new batch of trainees. So we've always been in contact to ensure that I keep myself up to date. He will update me with the latest things and how he does supervision at the moment, right? So adding also, I continue to meet him. Wanted to bring him to Malaysia so that we can do exchanges like this in universities and in podcasts, to share about his experience giving back to the community. So you can actually look up, he's got a Wikipedia. Yeah. Other things that I do. So in the youth center, we do the program called Strengthening Families program. So we actually have that in Trifel. It's called Kami. So I kind of tweak a little bit and the community development team has grown it ever since. So this is how it looks like originally. Moms actually attending this at 6 p.m. evening to do programs on enhancing their relationship communication with their respective children. So we have a youth version of it. We have a parent version of it. And then apart from that, there's college tours and also the community carnival. It's quite similar because in our Trifel, in the community development team, we have community mental health day. So all these things are part and parcel of us being in a community. If you're planning to move towards community psychologist kind of role, these are some of the ideas to give you in mind that will actually help you to see family systems very differently, right? You are part of the system and you're growing with the system. Okay. So San Francisco Chinatown, apart from Tenderloin, in this view, very chantik, right? You know I'm going to show you after this video, right? So we always see, wow, Chinatown in our state, very nice. What I see is this. So again, culture shock again, right? So when I do home visits, these are the areas where I have to go into their homes. SROs are called single resident occupancy. So what am I looking at is I have an intake of the child given by the school. So they ask me to ensure that they have proper basic needs, what we call that, right? Met, in addition to the mental health needs, because we're going there to do assessment and whatnot. So when I go in here, typically this space is about $700 a month. You times 5 now, maybe? And then 100 square foot. Literally, that's a space, huh? Literally, this is it already. Front door coming in, table, you can see boiler and things like that. And they share the bathroom and the kitchen. It's communal. They don't have any. So when I walk in, see my face, like, must keep calm. Cannot look so shocked, but have to be very kind and everything. The lady will offer me, similar to this lady there, oh, please sit down. They speak Cantonese, by the way. So when I was first starting off, I speak Mandarin and I told my supervisor, Dr. Wu, can you give me Mandarin speaking? Of course, you give me all Cantonese speaking. So that's the training ground, right? You can request from your supervisor, but of course your supervisor will give you everything but the one you want. Yeah. So I had to learn speaking broken Cantonese, mixing it with Bahasa. This is for the early days, right? I'm like, because we always jumble up here in Malaysia, very rojak, right? I had to speak proper Cantonese, very suffering at that point. So, but nevertheless, talking to these ladies was like, oh, hi, I'm here to see you. We made an appointment regarding your son's actual mental state. The teacher in the school wants to, work with you. So she's like, oh, yeah, please have a seat. Guess my thought, sit where? Where to sit? Sit on a bed. Literally like this, This is a bunk bed. The bigger space is like the double queen size. Up there is like a single, right? So I literally have no choice. I took the space and, okay, thank you. I make sure it's not a pillow and I sat down. Okay? And then she said, oh, do you want to have a drink? Then she poured the water already from the cup. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Drink. So yes, these are some of the things where, again, when you do family home visits, nobody prepares you, right? There's no manner to say, please say this, do that. You are literally on your own and you have to be very mindful about all these behaviors responding to the environment, right? So I sat down and drink the water. I don't know where the water came from, but it definitely is boil water, and have to be very courteous and ask her questions, literally. And then when I look around, I'm not joking. Most of the rooms that I went in look like this. Very tight space. Even if I had to use the washroom pun, I takut. So I'll always say, she said, oh, there's a, I did ask, I didn't know the first time. She said, oh, we can come here. And that's okay. No, all these things are like my preconceived bias. I didn't know. And I had to change that thought process after that. Because can you imagine that I had so much privilege living in a home with a toilet and they have to share paying so much money. Yeah. So then that changed my mind to be a family / therapist / counselor working in a family community. I have to be really, really insightful about what they're going through, right? So long story short, this family, the 2 girls are teenagers. The 2 boys are like one in Kansia, but there's 2 young kids here. These are elementary school. This is middle school, meaning there's actually 5 kids and 2 parents, 7 people in this 100 square foot. Okay, a lot, right? So you imagine you go back home, you're like, oh my God, what just happened today? I need to process this. You speak to supervisor. Yeah. So these are some of the things where you might give therapy to them, but based upon the grant, they probably are allowed like 12 sessions. After that, they have to stop and then get into wait list again and come back or may never come back. So again, your interventions needs to be very succinct, cost effective, and basically meet their needs. So you don't have the book manual that says CBT, 12 sessions, 6 sessions, bring to half. Sometimes they may not come, right? So what kind of intervention is actually useful for them? You learn from the ground, literally, what works for them. Any questions so far? Okay, so yeah, so with this, I would say the client mixture for my own personal family's involvement is quite interesting. I have worked with schools, meaning I do go to schools. I meet all the teachers, well-being coordinator, and also everyone who's actually involved in this child's life. So meaning when I get a case, I don't just see the child and talk to the child. I do home visits, as you can see. And I also have to see the teachers, I have to see the well-being coordinators. They will give me access to their grades, but grades isn't everything. I have to see them in their original state. Meaning you would think that this is a clinical psychologist, right? You're nodding, you'll do that. But I was a counselor / marriage and family therapist. I'm doing that too, right? So you can see the difference. So if you want more of your career or profession, you can always do more, provided the agency does that lah. But that's why you can always ask, no, do I get a chance to do that? Can I ensure that I also have access to, let's say site visits and things like that? You will want that because that would change the way how you manage your therapy session as well. So I work with a family that I can remember until today. My first client, okay, those of you who are clinicians or practicing, you always remember your first client because it's very monumental. He's a 12-year-old or 13-year-old high school kid that brought a knife to school. So again, my first client already like that, wow, bring knife to school. 0 tolerance policy in the US because immediately you get suspension. So 0 tolerance means whatever weapons that you bring, no joke lah, you get suspended on immediately, right? No school, you have to send to court, literally. And then you have a probation officer to monitor you. And then you have to go to therapy sessions mandated by court. And I was already seeing this client, first client having this case. So a lot of things go through my mind. I try to prepare as much as possible. Whatever you can think of, have supervision, everything. But then ultimately it boils down to your conversation with the child. The kid, he's 13. So we come in with the attitude. By the way, these are all kids with gang. They all have a code. You all know this brand called North Face jacket. North Face sells jacket, right? So it's a comfortable sweater jacket. That's the code. Everyone with black North Face jacket belongs to the same gang. I didn't know that. Later on, I learned a lot of things. So I was speaking to this kid who cannot say anything because what are the gang codes? You don't rat on each other, right? So you already learn from the ground rules. Okay, I have my training, but nobody teach me how to talk to a little gangster boy, right? So that's also how I learned to slowly open up, to be more, I would say, supportive. So our first few sessions, we never talk because he came in with the attitude, slouching, sitting on the chair. So I said, we really did an hour of just staring at each other, or he stared and I look at him. And I asked him, if you need anything, you need water, you need food, our parents are okay, how's your parents? So you try to do as much as possible, but the talking is just one way. So it's fine. So we ended the session with very little talking. But the next session he comes in, I tried to get him to talk a little bit by saying that if you continue this, I have to write a report to the probation officer, right? I can write nice things about you, but you didn't give me anything to write about you, so I might have to say things that you don't talk, you're not cooperative, and they may even extend your probation. So ultimately, I have to go. It's not to threaten him, but truthfully, I need facts, right? And that the facts I'm looking at is like this. So then he slowly removed the hand and started chatting a little bit. So that, okay, really, if I go through writing all this report, the probation officer's going to look at me, I'm very incompetent already, right? So cannot. Responsible, accountable, first child, firstborn, cannot. So I'm in my role, right? Cannot, stress, anxiety already. So he did it. Eventually, we warm up in the third session. So ultimately, I realized, again, looking at the system, bigger than him, bringing a knife to school, he was being bullied. He was a bullied kid. Just started his freshman year, meaning just stepped into high school. That's why he felt that he needed to protect himself. He bring a knife. Not a small knife, quite a huge parang, not a parang, like literally the kind that you get caught kind. So I was like, what made you think that bringing a knife to school will protect you? Yeah, literally you will have this. So we will have the bond enough that we can joke like this. So working with youth, you cannot be all so serious. So you need to have the behavior, the support, the nurture, conversation that's humorous to work with them. So I learned from this first kid that I have to be able to adapt and work my way into that kind of conversation. So we laughed, we joked. He could have used a better instrument, weapon, So then I realized that he was actually quite alone. His family is not really engaging with him. Even he kena bully, also never tell the parents. The parents just scolded him for being stupid by bringing a knife to school. But context-wise, they don't know really actually what is going on. Because remember, he's not supposed to rat out, not supposed to tell on the people, right? He joined a gang. Again, why are all these immigrant kids joining gang? I was like, why? Why all wear the black color North Face jacket? Then I realized there's a theme. They all come from different parts of the world. Parents want to have the American dream. They gave up jobs like engineers, teachers, doctors in their respective country to raise a kid in America, living the American dream. So then the parents now become janitors, chefs, hotel cleaners to live in this kind of small areas, small units, so that their kids will take the American education and thrive. However, they've forgotten, the big part is they don't speak English. They are not fluent in English. And the parents, I would say typically Asian families in this context, right, will tell them that the teacher is always right. Don't disobey your teacher. Can you imagine this learning from your parents, and then you go to school, you're like, I have no idea what the teacher is telling me, and I got penalized and punished. Then the more I don't want to go to school because I have no understanding of what they're telling me. So you have this part of the kids who feel the lost child, but you also have the other part of the kid who I want to make my parents proud. They sacrifice for us to come, and I want to be the studious kid. I have that as well, but they have different mental health challenges. They want to be the perfect child that doesn't disappoint the parents. So again, I have different spectrum of working with families, and I have to understand why, in some ways, why I have to adapt instead of so much they have to adapt to me, obviously. And how I understand them is by going through their family system, not looking at their own symptoms only. Yeah. So I will invite the parents in. So another case is I was referred to the boy who kena bully. Check on him to see if he's okay. This is a different case already, okay? And then next thing you know, I went back to the center, and then another referral came in to say that this boy bullied people. Guess what? I was looking at the bully and the bullier together, but in different state. I was like, oh my God, this person, I matched the facts because they're very, very the same. So at the center, this was referred differently, but at the school, this was referred differently. So, but basically the person who gonna bully and the bully person was talking to me at the same time. right? So again, it's very unique, but how do you attend to this situation? So I call another colleague of mine, we do peer. We sit them down and we do peer therapy in a sense. Yeah. So again, never think that you have to do this alone. There's always ways to discuss with supervisors and see how can we facilitate this kind of systemic work. Again, you might think that how come you're not bringing your parents in? Yes, parents will come in after this once we understand what's going on so that we give the parents a bigger picture. Think about it. If I ask the parents to come in, they're giving up their half a day job of their janitor, cleaning work, and then their income will be lesser. And then you imagine the whole circularity of this system, right? So you have to be very mindful to ensure that the time is properly used. So there are even times where the child don't show up in school. So in the US, there is this thing where they'll penalize the parents, fine $1,000 if your child don't go to school for a long period of time. Can you imagine the parents come to me yelling at me, why I need to go to the court, so-called court, like they call it as court. I said, your child didn't go to school. Yeah, my child didn't go to school. Why I have to pay $1,000 fine? So then I have to explain to parents that the law in the US is that your child is truant for X amount of days. They do track and they put the responsibility on the parents to ensure that your child goes to school. If not, you get fined $1,000. So can you imagine the janitor, parents forking out $1,000? So all these things were more like a hindsight conversation for me to realize how the system works in the US. So like the family roles, family rules, family goals literally go back to that conversation when I talk to them one by one in my intake assessment. Yeah, so it's not so typical of a therapy session first because of the limitations in community mental health. You look into what works for them. The intervention maybe just be psychoeducation. So I can say for the most part, I did quite a bit of psychoeducation and understanding and mapping just now. We did the roles, we did the interaction, we did the circularity thinking that helps the parents to actually understand that they're fueling the cycle and it's not helping the child because there's this gap, the generation gap. So ultimately, they have the father and mother not speaking English, but their children spoke very, very good American English. And then the parents will come to me and say, I have no idea why my son don't speak Cantonese at home. They only speak English. I don't want this. I want them to speak Cantonese. Then you have the whole argument going on and on because the child is conflicted, right? They send the kids to school in order to make them to speak the language they want, but they come back home, the child don't speak the language and they're upset. So it's like a chicken and egg thing. Whose fault? Remember we talk about this is no causality. It's just, it happens that way. So, but what can we do about it? Right? So all these things are part and parcel of being a community psychologist. So let me see what else I have. Okay, after all these things, right, you're thinking, what happened? So the city actually honored me and gave me a certificate of honor. So basically, San Francisco City. Yeah, so I was like, oh, thank you. Because you're like, oh, it's all worth it somehow, right? So this is the motivation to say, never think that you're too small of a shrimp. Wherever you go, you continue to pursue your dream, your passion, whatever you do, collaborate. So think about this. I've never done this alone. I always have collaborations with people, my systems, my network to do things. So it's not just me. Again, when you look at this, why it's me? But you know behind the scene, right? Who was my teacher? My clients, the families, the parents, my supervisors. Then I only can have today, right? So yeah, my takeaway from my whole experience doing the therapy, this is during a little shortly after I graduated. So I stayed on with the agency because I already had the clients there already, right? Every day you work with the clients. Over the times you feel like, I just want to stay on. So this is a little bit after a year of working there. Yeah, I got this because I'm not kidding. Over there, you get a pool of 20 cases assigned to you every other day. And you just have to get it out, done. Is this case management? Is this counseling? Or this assessment? And you just have to navigate that. Yeah, and refer accordingly. Okay. So the key highlights for this is, if you notice, I do the C's earlier. For those of you who are understanding of Adlerian, have you all seen this 4 crucial C's? Know that? Yeah, so Betty Lou Bettner took the concept from Adlerian psychology, individual psychology, and created this 4 C's. So what I learned and how you can take this back with you is the 4 C's. Courage, capable, connect, count. Not in any manner, but I just kind of flow it according to the way I'm narrating the story. So for courage, I've learned that I can overcome challenges And this is how you will also do it for yourself. When you are working with your own group project, when you're working with your own team, when you're going to see clients, even for yourself, the fact that if you feel that you need help and you get the help, this gives you courage to say, I can overcome challenges. You're internalizing belief, right? Capable, I am competent. And then connect, I feel like I belong. Because after that, I feel like after really stepping into the community, going into the Tenderloin walkabouts, going into the homes of the single residence occupancy unit, I really feel like I belong already. And then I count. And then finally, the recognition, I feel like, oh, I finally matter. I did something, right? So I forgot to share during the visitations, aside from giving me the water and whatnot, the parents do come over at the center. Again, this is not just one way, it's very circular as well. The parents would meet me in school, the parents will meet me at home, the parents also will meet me at the center. So you can see, I can see the parents in different dynamics, right? So when they come to the center, they will bring a fruit basket. And I always feel very bad because you know how much money they have to spend on a fruit basket and give it to me. So again, I will say thank you from everyone. So everyone share that fruit basket as well. So before I left and come back to Malaysia, so I had to close cases, right? So some of the youths I work with 2 years, 3 years, they will try to elicit me and tell me, hey, you want to buy last things for me here before you leave? I say, buy what? Fireworks. I said, why you want to sell fireworks illegally? So again, I'm talking to this kind of kids who are hustling for side income on the streets. So you cannot take it too seriously. You just take it lightly and say, hey, you just be careful and this and that, right? I'm making sure that you're okay, network-wide, things like that. So some of the cases I work with, I forgot to mention earlier, was like carjacking. So I have this kid that referred to me that they decided to carjack, meaning just literally break into someone's car, because they're too tired to walk 2 blocks down. So they jack the car, drive the car 2 blocks down, broad daylight. So, kena lah, tangkap. What happened? Because they forgot to put an indicator to signal to go in. Cops come, ask for license, tak ada license. High school kids, belum lagi dapat license to drive. So, we will joke around. The client that was referred to me, why did you actually think of driving and robbing and carjacking, not robbing, in daytime? They're like, yeah, actually we could done it a different time. Nighttime would be better. So yes, we laugh about this. Yeah, you're not so smart about it after all, huh? So yes, you see, if you take this conversation and you do it with them, they know they're already salah lah, right? Don't have to rub in, but we joke about it and how can you do better? So that's how where if they get caught, which is not one time, they will get caught over times again. They will ask you to come in versus asking the parents. Because ultimately you've built that rapport, you have the network of support, and you know ultimately they know that you did not give up on them. So you can imagine the amount of, okay, I realized one thing I forgot to share. I also asked my supervisor to give me female first, because I thought I start off with female better. And guess what my supervisor gave me? All males and all in the gang. Right? So in some ways, it was challenging my own beliefs and concepts, but ultimately, actually, I'm competent. I feel belong, even though it was male. Most of my clients end up becoming male. I do have a couple of females as well, but they're all males and I matter. So I didn't mention that along the way, it's not all bright and sunny roses. I've lost clients to homicide cases. So talk to them and the next thing you know, they appear in the news. Crisis already. Newscasters, hey, Ivy, is this your client? I said, no. I mean, yes, but I've talked to the client on the phone only. But then somehow, client was then murdered. Okay, not going into details, but then you're like, oh, what happened? Right? So the whole thing was like a chaos in the agency-wise. They have to have press release, what's going on, but it was very less for me because I didn't really involve myself yet. But the idea is that you will lose clients along the way. If you select this path, you will need to be able to have that mental preparation. Something can happen to them depending on where you work. Of course, my risk is I'm working with, gangs and juvenile youth. They have the ability to either they fight with each other, something happened to them, but there's loss. And how you recover from that loss, right? So let me see if there's anything else. Very quickly, that's kind of the end of my sharing for the highlights. Is there any questions for the concepts and whatnot? No? Okay. So ThriveWell, I think some of you actually asked, what is ThriveWell? We're an organization, social enterprise, pioneering in trauma-informed mental health services. So we are based in Bandar Utama in EJ, very near Wanotama. So we welcome those of you who want to apply to do your placement there, because we also have a community development division where you can actually join in our projects and actually do a lot of community mental health practices over there. So to know more, follow us on LinkedIn. You can do that, or you can just look us up at the website. And then we also have time for questions. If any of you want to know any clarifications or questions, before I forget, I do have resources. So for those of you who are the very compliant student, very firstborn, need to do everything well, responsible students, you all can fulfill your role, feel purposeful. After today, you can snapshot this, you can get a slide after this. 2 books that there's 5 books here, but you can get started with Assessing Families and Couples and The Craft of Family Therapy. Okay, so these are Salvador Minuchin's book. Salvador Minuchin is also a master therapist, primarily in structural family therapy. Because we talk about roles, boundaries, rules, and all these things. Rules are all these boundaries. So Minuchin's work, I find that it's very easy to follow, easy to understand. So if that's of interest of you, so these 2 books, Assessing Family Couples and Craft of Family. Why? Because it's put into a conversation between Salvador Minuchin, the therapist, how he says it, and then what the clients, it's a very interview kind of conversation. So it's not just textbook read, it's very interactive. So you can imagine what the therapists say, and for early beginning therapists, very helpful, right? You can learn how to kind of imitate that a little bit, and then what to say in the practice on your own, you can do that. So these 2 books, very helpful, okay? Those of you at ThriveWell Center, the trainees, I do have the books with the app, so you can let me know, you can all have a look at it as well. Yep. So any questions? I know we are looking at the time.
Any questions here so far? Anybody?
5:25 already. Yeah.
Anybody? All right.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm sorry. Okay. Hi everyone. Basically, my name is Shavika, and I'm a MDP student.
MDP is
Master in Developmental Psychology.
okay.
Also tired from eating.
So tired from eating. That's good. So tired from eating.
Okay. Okay. So basically, when we go through the approach just now, so basically from us, we can understand it from developmental perspective. So how it happens, how the family system works and such. But I just wonder, because unfortunately we don't have the chances to go to do our intern outside. So most of the time we only learn theory. So I just want to know, because you guys deal with social work within the Malaysian setting. So in terms of the family system in Malaysia, I just want to know what are the biggest issue within the family system that you see in Malaysia now. I mean, like, I just thinking like how us as MDP students like can look more into that and maybe like do programs on that. So it could be like something additional for us. So yeah, I just want to know like expert views on this. Yeah,
thank you for your question. I didn't get your name again, sorry.
Shavika.
Shafika. Yeah, thank you. I think good question. So one project that we're working on at the moment that is quite big, I would say, is looking at milestones of maternal mental health. Yeah. So making sure that they are, again, supporting mothers, especially we tend to overlook postpartum depression. These are some of the things to look at as well. Right now, we have a project to measure 1,000 days post delivery, right? So then you can see how important it is that these are taken into consideration, because it will affect the mother, the child, family system, right? Stressful mother, stressful child, stressful, everyone stressful, because the mother is stressed out. Essentially, if your family unit is one person stressed out, usually the mother, you will know the whole family is also very stressed out, right? So by measuring that or understanding what's going on, that will be very helpful as well. Because like I said, you don't go out, but if you have a chance to meet with, again, developmental, right? These are the milestones that they have to achieve post delivery or the baby, well, first 1,000 days for the baby, also what's going on with them. Yeah, but to put this into practice, you can think of your existing work at the moment. Again, like I said, the system, if you're not in a community, it's still a community that you have right now. You can apply this immediately. If you're working in a division of a team, your leadership team, whatever team, you can apply that immediately already. Yeah, the roles, the functions, and things like that. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think the tag can close. Okay, so yeah. If not, okay, I think we need to close up the room for the tech support. But Pam is checking in. But if there's any further questions or clarifications after today, like you want to learn more about how systems work, I mean, I hope today is not too jargony. The idea here is for those of you who are not in the whole family systems training, you have a sense of what is it and how supportive it is to go deeper into learning about this. Again, it's just like an eye-opening conversation, bersantai today, but feel free to contact me. My contacts are with Pam, so we can always have another session here. If you feel like, okay, I really want to know about family system, I want to go next into structural family therapy, then we will go into really techniques, very, very much into how that will be executed. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Any last, maybe can we get a throw out? What are your learning outcomes today for yourself? Like one word you remember that I mentioned in the presentation today? Circularity. Awesome. Okay. Any words? Can we just get a throw out? Any more? Circularity. The 4 C's. Great. Anything else? Scripts. Okay. Your life scripts. Anything else? The roles. I kept talking about the roles. Yeah, the roles. The goals. The hero. Okay. That's the systemic roles that we have. Okay. Yeah. These are good pointers for you to go back and remember what family systems insight is for you today. I hope that is helpful. I think I will end the session. Pam, is that? Okay. So we can continue with questions. Or if some of you would like to approach me personally, we can do that. But I think we are still taking in questions, if any. Yeah. Yes.
I know you mentioned about the projection site that you have, and I'm curious about maybe the functionality of them and regards to like how effective. Okay. Oh,
No, careful.
okay. This is kind of extra.
Yeah, you can come forward if you want to.
Okay, so basically my question is about the safe
Yes, the
injection
safe
site.
injections. Yeah,
And
yeah.
just like your experience dealing with them in regards to just like the functionality of it and like how effective are they, especially like I can see because like you said that the neighborhood was like there's like children or schools. How I guess from your experience do you find that like that they're effective in I guess like curbing I guess addictions and overdoses and stuff like that?
Yeah, good question. So there's two sides of this. Some are supporting it and some are just finding it like a nuisance because it encourages the behavior. Well, so personally, I feel that in some ways it helps to decrease those who are overdose laying around the streets for the safety of the people and the children. Then they are less of a threat to them. However, but it increases more people wanting to access it, right? So again, it's coming back to the chicken and egg again, which is better. But ultimately, if you take the stance on safety, definitely less on the streets getting high is one thing. And then you can have the safety of the children in some ways protected as much as possible, but you can't really, again, it's still going to be more on the streets, but ultimately it's the city itself is trying to move toward this direction where everyone, basically what they call that, do no harm, but to the rest of the population, people living in there. But as much as they can do, they can only curb so much. Yeah. But yes, the children will see what they see. Again, what we call advanced childhood, adverse childhood experiences, ACEs. You can see that most of the families that I work with have already 1, 2, or 3 ACEs just by merely living in a neighborhood. Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Bin.
So let me ask you your job scope now.
My job scope now, yes. I think it's almost everything. But yeah, I'm narrowing down to clinical excellence, meaning I'm overseeing still the clinical services delivery and practices. So how we, I would say, roll out our programs. I kind of just ensure that the quality assurance is there. It's up to what we call the standard practicing measurements. So we are taking in all these data to ensure that we have some information and making this impact for the community. And then again, funding is always a challenge. So with this, we can have better data, better funds, and better quality interventions. Again, I think we are bringing in more training. When I say training, meaning experts, whether they're international or local, applying it in Malaysian context. So if you remember the SFP, I think you remember the Kami program. So it's actually derived from SFP, Strengthening Families Program, right? But Malaysian context, you can't really put all the 15 modules in it. So if you're interested in family youth program, Strengthening Families Program was what I took and adopted in Malaysia context, which is what Kami Keluarga Akrab Mencapai Impian project is at 12 Well. So again, this has to be deconstructed, make it applicable. So I think for those of you who are inspired to do programs, don't start from scratch. There's a lot out there, right? But what we need to do is actually the homework to deconstruct it and make it applicable. Yeah, so that's kind of like behind the scene right now. Yeah. My goal is to ensure that in everything that we do, there's continuous quality to delivery. We can always aspire to have a lot of things, but we don't want to lose sight of the quality of services delivery out there. Yeah. Thank you. Bin, welcome you back anytime. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, good question, right? So I think when I came back, it was a reverse culture shock. So when I was working overseas, you can see that the social welfare system is relatively set up properly, right? So there's proper enforcement. There, if I go walk about, there's cops everywhere to ensure that there's safety. And all these families' social welfare is very much tip-top. If I have suspect any case of abuse, I can call out CPS, which is Child Protective Services, very quickly. And immediately, case is open. They will start investigating. Even when they investigate and nothing comes out from it, they will call me and say, because I'm the reporter, right? They will tell me that they've investigated and they didn't find anything that was suspicious, case closed. So it's very systematic. I mean, as much as flaws from them, probably they will feel that their system is messy. But for us, which no system is like, wow, right? So coming back here, I'm like, the first thing I asked was like, what are the terms for suicide? Right? Back then, Malaysia now changed already, finally, right? The law on suicide has changed, right? So I was like, huh? We still penalize people for suicide? How? All these questions came to me, right? Because if you're trained overseas, where they are more advanced. So just think back 20, 30 years ago, US was probably like this, where we are, but they have since moved and advanced. So these are some of the meet the gaps where I can adapt, adopt, and try to work within our system that's applicable, right? So culture shock on how we work around here in systems and welfare. Again, I cannot get the privilege and pay, although I work in an agency, non-profit, I still have privilege. I can make ends meet. I can survive. I can still live on that amount. But I come back to Malaysia, if I solely sustain in a non-profit, it's quite susah. So when I came back, I actually started working in private first. because I need to first stabilize myself. So think about it. If you want to work to stabilize yourself, that's your priority. You do first, but you never lose sight of your community part of you, which is where on the Saturdays and Sundays, if I'm not working Monday to Fridays, that's where I continue. And that's actually how my story of where I found TriFel. Initially, it was called Shield 2015. I wanted to just volunteer intern there. So ended up doing more than that. So from volunteer intern / I ended up doing what I'm doing today. So it's just a matter of staggering your priorities. Yeah. Families wise, I think the family teams are still there. I don't think there's any difference. I have very strict autocratic families coming to see me. For example, a father who, I can still remember this very clearly, father who refused to say sorry to the child. And he feels that saying sorry means he diminished his role as a father. Yeah. And all the time, the child, 14-year-old daughter, only wants the father to say sorry because guess what the father did? He don't want the daughter to look at the phone a lot, play on the phone. So he took the phone and smashed the phone out of anger. So the daughter lost all the important friends' photos, heavily resented him, and refused to say sorry to the daughter. So we had a session teaching the father how to say sorry. Yeah. So I think it's not much difference from the family systems overseas and back in Malaysia. It's just a matter of how willing the parents or families are willing to change according to the families, the roles. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. If not, I think we can end. I think we are all good. It's already 5:40. So I thank you everyone for your time today. Really appreciate it and hope to see everyone soon. For those of you who have further questions or clarifications, feel free to look at our website and yeah, see everyone soon. Thank you. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Miss Ivy. I think we have all learned so much. I can't wait to apply this in my therapy sessions as well with my clients and trying to do the mapping of the step 1, step 2, step 3, especially the one with the goals and the behaviors. It also helped me to realize a lot about my roles as well and a lot of different things happening. So thank you so much, all of you, for coming. I'm sorry that we promised a tour, then we didn't. Maybe some of you already saw some things on the way when the traffic jam was there. But so maybe we will have, I think we will have more collaborations and more events. So perhaps during that time, we can have a longer tour. We start with the tour first, I feel. We always keep postponing with Alicia's time too. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. And if you want to come and meet our speaker and take photos as well, we can. Yeah. So maybe we could take like a group photo very quickly, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Once again, salam. Thank you, Miss Ivy, so much. So how do we do it? Like, I think everyone just, turn your chairs and just face this way, maybe.